Mountain Master Zhua nodded his head. I think so. Besides, when she woke up just now, she didn't look lost at all. Instead, she seemed to have been woken up by An Linchuan. That's not right. Since she woke up, why didn't she walk to the end of the bridge to complete the mission? Instead, she took a nap? Mountain Master, he asked in confusion. For a moment, no one answered his question. They felt that they were all wrong. They thought that little girl was a mischievous character, a troublemaker. They didn't expect that she actually knew how to hide her true strength. Putting aside the issue of her clear spiritual sense, just the fact that she could fall asleep under such a great pressure showed that she was completely unafraid of that pressure. The reason why she slept was clearly because she did not intend to expose the fact that she was unafraid of pressure. They had really underestimated her. Mountain Master, he slapped his thigh. So the little girl is hiding her strength. But that's true. She has a heavenly thunder spirit root. Is the pressure of heavenly thunder not greater than that of a human? She naturally has a stronger ability to resist pressure than an ordinary person. Haha. Old Jing, we won this round again. When the mission starts again, she'll definitely pass smoothly. I told you I have a good eye. Mountain Master Zhua looked at him speechlessly. Having such a pig teammate was actually quite tiring. Why are you bringing up the bet now? Aren't you urging Elder Jing to increase the difficulty of the mission? Sure enough, Elder Jing's expression changed a few times. He took out his identity jade token and said something, a faint trace of pride on his face. They were also a little tired, so they all sat in meditation on the spot, waiting for the arrival of the next day. The next day, Yun Chuzhou and the others had just eaten breakfast, and the meditation mission was activated again. Yun Chuzhou had already thought it through. This time she controlled her speed slightly, and when it was almost 4 hours she would pass the mission. However, as soon as she stepped on the stone bridge, she felt as if 10,000 divine beasts had whizzed past her heart. The pressure was indeed gone, but could anyone explain why her feet seemed to be stuck on the stone bridge and couldn't move at all? Elder Jing, who was in the meeting hall, was very pleased with himself. Who would have thought that he had added a confinement formation on the stone bridge? Others must have thought that Yun Chuzhou couldn't move because she had fallen into an illusion, but in reality, she was confined there. Ha ha ha. Let's see how that old he can still be proud of himself. Mountain Master, he exclaimed, That's not right. Why did she stop moving after just one step? She fell into an illusion so quickly? How is that possible? How is that not possible? Although that little girl isn't afraid of pressure, she's full of tricks. It's normal for her to fall into an illusion early on, Mountain Master said from the side. He felt that he had lost some face yesterday, so he naturally vented his anger on Yun Chuzhou, who was playing dead. Mountain Master, he defended himself with a few words. His originally confident heart suddenly became uncertain. Could it be that this little girl really couldn't pass? Yun Chuzhou couldn't move any part of her body except for her eyeballs. She was so depressed that she wanted to vomit blood. The person behind this mission was even more wicked than her. She could not move her body. Even if there was no pressure or illusion, she could not move even half a step. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, 2 hours had passed. And Linchuan and Shangguan Hao were still more than half of the stone bridge, trapped in the illusion. As for a certain Zhou, she still maintained the posture of taking the first step and stood there bitterly. Occasionally missing content. Please report errors in time. Yun Chuzhou had scolded the people behind the scenes a few hundred times, but it wasn't a certain Zhou's character to just obediently submit. There must be a way. Let her think about it. As she thought about it, her eyes lit up. She couldn't move, but she could command the large kitchen knife to move. Thus, this guy commanded the large kitchen knife to start. Yes, to cut the bridge. Everyone in the meeting hall was dumbfounded. This wasn't right. If she was in an illusion, why would she have a large kitchen knife? And that large kitchen knife was still cutting the bridge? Mountain Master, he was stunned at first. Then he stomped his feet and scolded, Old Jing, you're too unethical. It turns out that the little girl didn't fall into an illusion at all. You used a confinement formation. You're too wicked. Elder Jing's face turned red. Humph. This was because that little girl wasn't afraid of the pressure, so it made it a little more difficult for her. What are you shouting for? Besides, I only confined her body, not her spiritual power. Didn't she break the confinement formation already? Mountain Master, he looked up. Sure enough, Yun Chujo regained her freedom after a few cuts with the big kitchen knife. At this time she had already jumped to the middle of the bridge. Apparently she had really fallen into the illusion this time. The illusion that Yun Chujo had fallen into this time was not as interesting as the previous one. It was nothing more than a bunch of demonic beasts surrounding her. Yun Chujo moved her spiritual sense and had already left the illusion. This fellow felt that since the person behind her had used the confinement formation to deal with her, there was nothing to hide. Thus he directly jumped to the end of the stone bridge. However, after this incident, Yun Chujo had some thoughts. The confinement array just now only confined her body. If even her spiritual power was confined, then she wouldn't be able to release the big kitchen knife. No, I must get a knife sheath after I go out this time and carry the big kitchen knife with me. I wanted to do that last time, but I forgot about it later. Also, I can't always count on the big kitchen knife. Her body was confined and her spiritual power was confined. But since her mind was clear, then her spiritual sense should be able to move. If only her spiritual sense could attack. In that case, no matter what situation she encountered, she would have this trump card to be invincible. This fellow felt that the remnant souls she encountered before were equivalent to using spiritual sense to attack? Since they could do it, why couldn't she? The more she thought about it, the more excited she became. She made up her mind to practice spiritual sense attack after she left the meditation cave. When she succeeded, she would definitely be awesome. The more she thought about it, the more beautiful she became. Her face was practically smiling like a flower. Xiao Hanyo, who was inside the spirit beast pouch, could not take it anymore. He reminded her, Master, it's too early for you to be happy. Even if it's a remnant soul, it's still formed by countless spiritual senses. What you can send out is just a small strand of spiritual sense. What kind of offensive power can it have? Moreover, once the spiritual sense you sent out is damaged, your spiritual sense will be damaged. It's simply not worth the loss. I advise you to put this idea out of your mind as soon as possible. Didn't I use my spiritual sense to attack those monsters in the Tianluo arcane realm before? Not only me but other students have also succeeded. Why can't I? Xiao Hanyo said with disdain, Master, that's because those monsters are transformed from the spiritual sense of big monsters. That's why your spiritual sense attack is effective. If you want to use your spiritual sense to attack a real body, that's impossible. Yun Chujo said unwillingly, why not? The ancient books say that there are people who can save the world with one thought and destroy the world with one thought. Obviously, spiritual sense can be trained to be very powerful. Xiao Hanyo rolled his eyes, Master, they are talking about gods. Gods, do you know? Even gods can tear through the void. Of course their spiritual sense can be very abnormal. You are just a weak chicken, don't daydream. Chapter 2800. Yun Chujo almost lost her breath. Xiao Hei, how dare you call me a weakling? Who's more like a chicken? That's why you're the weakling. And you call yourself a black phoenix, bah. You're just a weakling. No, a fallen phoenix is not as good as a chicken. You're even worse than a weakling. You're just a piece of trash. This young master is obviously doing this for your own good. How dare you scold me? Wah, this young master will ignore you. Xiao Hanyo's possessed eyes were filled with anger. It was obvious that she was very angry. Yun Chujo touched her nose guiltily and decided to let Xiao Hanyo calm down. Time would heal everything. Yes, that was it. After a while, for hours had passed. And Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao still failed the mission. However, the two of them were mentally prepared and did not care too much. However, when the two learned that Yun Chujo had actually completed the mission, they felt that their confidence, which they had always been proud of, had suffered a blow. Although the little girl was a handyman and was only at the 6th level of the Lingxian realm, she was not only smarter than them, but she could also release sword intent. Now, even her divine sense was clearer than theirs. It was really impossible to live. Obviously, someone was even more miserable than them. Haha. How is it? Old Jing, even if you cheated, the little girl still easily completed the mission. Hurry up and transfer all the spirit stones to us. Right, Old Jing, why don't you change the 5 missions to 100? Then it'll be rich. Ha. Mountain Master he felt really proud they didn't even know how to show off. Elder Jing's expression was so ugly that it almost turned into a purple eggplant. He gritted his teeth and said, "Cut the crap. Do you still want to bet on the 4th mission?" "Yes. Not only in the 4th round but also in the 5th round. I still want to bet that the little girl will pass the mission twice. This time I'll bet 1,000,000. Do you dare to follow? Mountain Master Zhua, are you still on my side?" Mountain Master He's confidence was unprecedentedly strong. He felt that although this tranquil heart cave mission was difficult for others, it was a piece of cake for Yun Chuzhou. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site. Thanks. Mountain Master Zhua really wanted to pretend that he hadn't heard anything. 1,000,000 per round, 2 rounds would be 2,000,000. What if he were to lose? The further they went, the more difficult it became. No matter how perverse the little girl was, she couldn't always be so smooth sailing, right? Although Mountain Master Zhua was cursing in his heart, he still smiled and said, "Naturally, I still agree with Mountain Master He's opinion." Elder Jing and the others were not willing to be outdone, so the bet was raised from 100,000 to 1,000,000. Master Bailey looked at the roof speechlessly. Why did he feel that this was not the primordial chaos sect but a casino? The people below were not the Mountain Master elders, but rather gamblers? How tiring. At this moment, Yun Chuzhou and the other two were chatting idly. Yun Chuzhou asked, "Senior brothers, what is the content of task 4? Tell me about it first so that I can be mentally prepared." And Lin Chuan showed a sympathetic expression. "Junior sister Xiaojiu, actually mission 4 is not too difficult for the two of us. We have already completed the mission long ago, but it seems to be a little difficult for you." "What mission?" Yun Chuzhou could not help but feel puzzled. Why was it even more difficult for her? Could it be that the mission was divided into men and women? The 4th round of the mission is to recite the proverbs on the wall. We also recited them for almost 10 days before we managed to recite them all. You haven't had the chance to recite them yet, so I'm afraid that we won't be able to pass the 4th round of the mission for the time being. And Lin Chuan explained. Yun Chuzhou. Could she say that this was a bonus question? Yun Chuzhou blinked her eyes and asked, "Do you want to memorize them all, or do you want to do a random check?" "Of course I want to do a random check. It will take a long time to memorize them all." And Lin Chuan answered, "That's easy. I'm always lucky. I'll pick a few random people to memorize. Maybe the ones I memorize will be the ones I memorize." Yun Chuzhou stood up and looked at the motto on the stone wall. And Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao looked at each other. This junior sister Jiu was good in every way, but she loved to brag too much. There were hundreds of proverbs on the wall. How could the one she picked be the one she memorized? Inside the meeting hall, Mountain Master He's intestines were almost turning green with regret. He had been so excited just now that he had forgotten that the 4th mission was to recite the proverbs. It was over, it was over. He was going to lose this round for sure. The little girl had only been in there for a day and had not had the time to look at the proverbs, let alone recite them. It would be a miracle if she could pass this. In stark contrast to his dejected expression, Elder Jing and the others were naturally the ones. Haha, they could finally win back a city. Moreover, the stake this time was 1,000,000. Very soon, the 4th mission of Calming Heart was activated. The mission voice asked, "Please answer the content of the 125th Proverbs." Yun Chuzhou blinked her eyes. "I don't know." "Please answer the content of the 216th Maxim." "I don't know." "Please answer the content of the 358th Maxim." "I don't know." And Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao looked speechlessly at a certain Jiu who didn't know anything. Wasn't this guy bragging just now? Why did he only say he did not know now? Very soon the mission ended. A certain Jiu received a big 0 with honor, and did not answer a single maxim correctly. Without waiting for Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao to speak, this fellow ridiculed himself. My luck this time is a little bad. I didn't remember all the tests. I guess my luck won't be so bad next time." And Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao looked at her speechlessly. "Keep bragging. Forget about the next time, you might not even be able to pass in another 5 days." In the meeting hall, Mountain Master He felt that the tide had already turned. It was over. This 1,000,000 was just wasted. Yet, he was the one who suggested to raise the stakes. He was really throwing stones at his own feet. Elder Jing and the others naturally couldn't help but mock him. They almost started fighting again, but fortunately, they were stopped by Master Bailey. Master Bailey only had one wish now, and that was to end these 5 missions as soon as possible. He wanted these things that couldn't be transferred back to their respective peaks, so that they wouldn't cause trouble for him. Mountain Master, he felt stifled in his heart. When he saw that Mountain Master Zhua was sitting there calmly, he immediately said in a bad mood, "Mountain Master Zhua, why didn't you stop me just now?" Mountain Master Zhua felt like he was cursing a dog in his heart. He actually wanted to stop him, but he didn't have the time. Moreover, even if he stopped it, this fellow wouldn't listen. And now he was blaming him, as if he hadn't lost 1,000,000 spirit stones. Mountain Master, he saw Mountain Master's was displeased expression and immediately knew that he had misspoken. He grinned and said, "Mountain Master Zhua, I was just saying that, don't take it to heart. If you want to blame someone, blame that little girl. Look, she's already on fire, yet she's still chewing on the spirit fruit, eh? Why does the spiritual fruit she's chewing look like the jade Ganoderma in the courtyard of the Kaiyang Peak Law Enforcement Hall?" Elder Jing snorted coldly. "Wasn't it because she stole it last time? It's because of this that the inner sect disciples of Shuangyang Peak had a conflict with her." Mountain Master, he was stunned for a moment, then slapped his thigh. "I remember now. Not only did this little girl pick the jade Ganoderma, but she also went around and said that you did something indescribable, haha." Elder Jing really wanted to slap himself in the face, so that he could shut his mouth. Two hours later, the 4th meditation task in the Cave of Tranquility was activated again, and Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao had lost hope in Yun Chuzhou, so they sat cross-legged on the ground and began to meditate. Please answer the content of the 237th maxim. If you are cautious, you will be at ease. If you are respectful, you will be strong. Please answer the content of the 197th maxim. If you follow it, what is your crime? Please answer the content of the 365th maxim. A gentleman is virtuous, but if you look foolish, mission passed. And Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao opened their eyes in surprise. They were both correct? Did junior sister Jo really have dog shit and luck? Did she know how to do all the random checks? Yun Chuzhou turned around and smiled smugly. "How was it? I told you that my luck has always been good." Yun Chuzhou's words came to an abrupt end because she realized that the Cave of Tranquility was beginning to tremble violently. What was going on? And Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao were also shocked. Why was the Cave of Tranquility trembling all of a sudden? Almost at the same time, thousands of miles around the primordial chaos sect began to tremble. Master Bailey, who was in the meeting hall, shouted, "Oh no! The Earth Dragon has turned over. Quickly let me ride my sword into the air to avoid being hurt by the Earth Chi." The people in the meeting hall couldn't care less about the bet anymore. They quickly informed their disciples to ride their swords into the air. The ground began to tremble violently. The demonic beasts at the back of the mountain let out terrified roars. The trees and houses began to collapse. Cracks began to appear on the ground, and Earth Chi began to jump out. The people in the air watched with fear and trepidation. Many of them had never seen the Earth Dragon turn over. They had only heard about it from others. They thought that it was a little exaggerated, but they didn't expect it to be so terrifying. Master Bailey heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. Although the Earth Dragon turnover this time had Earth Chi gushing out, it wasn't too serious and should be over soon. At this moment, Mountain Master cried out, "Lin Chuan! Lin Chuan and the others are still inside Jingxin Cave." Only then did Mountain Master Shun remember that his precious disciple Shangguan Hao was still inside Jingxin Cave. Everyone still had a sliver of hope in their hearts. Perhaps the disciples of the Tranquil Heart Cave had released the 3 of them when they were retreating. However, when they asked, those disciples were in a hurry to escape, so they didn't have the time to care about the 3 people inside the cave. Therefore, those 3 people were still inside the Tranquil Heart Cave. And the worst thing was that there was already a bottomless crack in the Tranquil Heart Cave, and Earth Chi was constantly gushing out. Not to mention Yun Chuzhou and the other 2, even if Master Bailey encountered such a situation, there was no chance of survival. Mountain Master and Mountain Master Shun almost fell off the treasured sword. It was over. Lin Chuan and the others were definitely dead. If they had known this would happen, they would have gotten someone to release them first, and then arrange for the other disciples. The two wanted to go down to check, but they were stopped by the crowd. Earth Chi was gushing out from below, and there was only one result if they went down, and that was death. Mountain Master, he sighed. He did not expect that the crowd would be so excited to make a bet just a moment ago, and that it would be life and death in the next moment. Life was truly unpredictable. It was a pity that 3 good children lost their lives just like that. Of course, the one who blamed himself the most was Elder Jing. He was in charge of Calming Heart Cave, and the disciples guarding it were all under his management. If they made a mistake, he would naturally bear the blame. After a few hours, everything returned to normal. The Chaos Origin sect could be described as a complete mess. Apart from some of the main halls, 90% of the houses had collapsed, and the original Calming Heart Cave had also collapsed into ruins. The huge crack that cut through the Calming Heart Cave had already closed up, as if nothing had happened. However, Yun Chujiu and the other 2 were nowhere to be found. Everyone found a small table, 3 small horses, and some scattered cards in the ruins of the Tranquil Heart Cave. Mountain Master and Mountain Master Shen wailed loudly. It was as if they could still see the 3 of them playing cards in front of their eyes. The 2 rascals even had this note stuck on their foreheads. Who would have thought that the yin and yang would be separated forever? Mountain Master N and the others dug hundreds of feet deep as if they had gone mad. Unfortunately, other than some stones from the meditation cave, they did not find anything. Everyone had no choice but to accept the fact that the 3 of them were dead. The disciples guarding the meditation cave were naturally punished by the sect rules, but what could they do? The 3 lively people lost their lives just like that. For a moment, the entire primordial chaos sect fell into a deathly silence. The speed at which cultivators built houses was very fast. In just 3 days, the destroyed houses of the primordial chaos sect were once again erected. It seemed that apart from the death of the scourge, there was no difference. The primordial murder sect was not far from the primordial chaos sect, so they were unable to escape this calamity and suffered heavy losses. When Master Xiahou heard that Yun Chujiu was dead, he specially rushed over. Master Bailey told him what had happened. It was rare that Master Xiahou did not argue with him. Although that little girl had turned the primordial murder sect upside down, she had also saved the primordial murder sect once. Moreover, she had not made any major mistakes. It was just a small matter that did not cause any harm. He did not expect that she would die just like that. He felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. Are you sure that he is dead? Didn't you say that the body was not found? Master Xiahou asked in a low voice. I can't contact him whether it's his identity jade token or the voice transmission talisman. There was a crack in the Tranquil Heart Cave, and the Earth Chi was surging. Most likely he was injured by the Earth Chi and fell into the crack. Now the crack has closed. Even if he didn't die at that time, he is now, alas, dead. Master Bailey let out a long sigh. Master Bailey and Master Xiahou both sighed. They didn't expect that the first time they spoke calmly was because of the news of Yun Chujiu's death. Achoo! Achoo! Someone must be scolding me again. Senior brothers, I don't understand. Tell me, are the things I did so hateful? We are all missing, and they are still scolding me. A certain Zhou pouted and said, Junior sister Zhou, I don't think you should think about how they are scolding you. Shouldn't you think about how we can escape? And Lin Chuan said with a speechless expression. At this moment, the 3 of them were planted in the sand like 3 mushrooms. There was a huge egg not far away from them. There were tiny cracks on it and it looked like it was about to hatch. Sigh. I also want to escape, but now besides being able to talk, our bodies and spiritual power are restricted. I can't do anything. Fortunately, that big bastard wants to give us to that little bastard who is about to hatch as a reserve food. Otherwise, we would have died long ago. Yun Chujiu said weakly. Thinking back, they didn't know whether they were lucky or unlucky. At that time, after they realized that the Tranquil Heart Cave was trembling, the 3 of them realized that the Earth Dragon had turned around. Yun Chujiu knew that there was no time to waste. She was ready to take out a talisman to blow up the tranquil heart cave. Unexpectedly, before she could take it out, a large crack appeared on the ground, and earth chi gushed out. Fortunately, the three of them had a lot of defensive spiritual artifacts on them, which gave them a moment to catch their breath. Just as they were about to exit through the opening of the tranquil heart cave, a white light suddenly flashed, and the three of them instantly fainted. When the three of them regained their consciousness, they found that they had been planted in the sand like mushrooms. An incomparably huge turtle was staring at them from not far away. Oh! When the three of them thought that their lives were over, they did not expect the big turtle to not eat them. Instead, it lay there motionlessly. Later, when the big turtle went out to look for food, the three of them realized that the big turtle was hatching an egg. The three of them speculated that it might have felt that their tender skin and flesh were more nutritious, and was prepared to save them for the little turtle to eat. The three of them were puzzled. They were clearly in the Cave of Tranquility, so how did they become the little bastard's reserve rations? The three of them could only move their heads left and right, so they could only discover that they seemed to be in a cave. As for where this place was, they had no idea at all. The three of them had seen the breed of the big bastard in the ancient records. It was a level 47 savage dragon-headed turtle, which was almost equivalent to the 9th layer of the ethereal space realm. Not to mention that the three of them were now imprisoned. Even if they were not imprisoned, there was no chance of survival if they encountered such a perverted demon beast. Sigh, let's pray that the little bastard won't hatch in a short time. That way we can live for a few more days. Yun Chujio said with a bitter face. She had thought of many possibilities, but she did not expect that she would feed it to the bastard in the end. Unfortunately, her big kitchen knife was still in her storage ring. Now she could only use Guai Chao. Guai Chao could attract demon beasts, but it could only make the three of them die faster. How could she escape? At this moment, crack, crack, the crack on the egg grew bigger. It seemed that it was going to hatch soon. Yun Chujio and the other two looked terrified. When it hatched, it would be the day they died. Could it be that they could only feed it to the bastard? Yun Chujio gritted her teeth. There was no other way now. It seemed that she could only try to establish a spiritual connection with it. Although she could not establish a temporary contract without spiritual power, what if she could fool it? Every day that she could live was another day. Therefore, Yun Chujio sent out a wisp of spiritual sense to envelop the giant egg. When the little bastard had just broken out of its shell, Yun Chujio's spiritual sense entered the little bastard's spiritual sense, preparing to establish a spiritual connection with it. Originally, Yun Chujio was already prepared for failure. She did not expect the process to be unexpectedly smooth. It was possible that the little bastard had just broken out of its shell and its spiritual sense was still very weak, so Yun Chujio succeeded in one strike. Father! A soft voice came from Yun Chujio's spiritual sense. Yun Chujio's head buzzed and she almost fainted. What the hell is a father? That little bastard obviously only knew how to say this. He kept calling for his father and even crawled to Yun Chujio's side and gently nudged Yun Chujio's head with his head. Damn it! Stop nudging me. If you continue, my neck will be broken. Quickly pull your father out with your claws. This bastard was already incoherent. No matter what, he had to regain his freedom first. Although that little bastard had just been born, it was still a high-level demonic beast after all. Therefore, with just a few claws, it was able to pull Yun Chujio out. Yun Chujio discovered that once she had gotten out of the sand on the ground, not only could she move, but her spiritual power had also recovered. She did not know whether it was because of the sand, or if there was something underneath, or if it was because of that little bastard. Yun Chujio quickly commanded the little bastard to pull in Linchuan and the other two out. Both of them were dumbfounded. How could that little bastard listen to junior sister Jiao? Just as the little bastard pulled in Linchuan and the other two out, the big bastard came back. Oh. The savage dragon-headed turtle was naturally very happy when it saw the little turtle breaking its shell. However, when it saw Yun Chujio and the other two being pulled out by the little turtle, it was very confused. On second thought, perhaps its son was hungry, so it planned to pull out the 3 people and eat them. As expected of its son, he was really smart. He knew how to cook when he was just born. "Baby son, quick, come to daddy." The savage dragon-headed turtle shouted happily. The little bastard looked at the big bastard with disdain. It was really ugly. Then it rubbed against Yunchujia's side. The savage dragon-headed turtle. It felt that its son had just been born, so perhaps his brain was not very clear. So it said again, "Son, what's wrong? Don't you recognize Daddy? Daddy spent 3 years incubating you. Have you forgotten all about it?" The little bastard moved closer to Yunchujio again. "Liar. Its father was clearly this beauty, not an ugly monster like you." The savage dragon-headed turtle was completely furious. Although the little bastard did not say anything, it could still understand the look of disdain in its eyes. Therefore, the savage dragon-headed turtle roared angrily, hoping to wake its son up. It did not expect that this roar would scare the little bastard so much that it trembled and disliked it even more. The little bastard used its 2 front claws to hug Yunchujia's legs, and its eyes were filled with fear and disgust as it looked at the savage dragon-headed turtle. The savage dragon-headed turtle saw that its son, who had painstakingly hatched, would rather stay by the side of that human than see it. It was angry and sad. It could not understand why its son had fallen in love with that human. Was it because she was a female? It didn't make sense. His son knew how to find a wife right after he was born. Wasn't this too precocious? At this moment, it saw the little girl reach out her claws and wave at it. "Lord Turtle, calm down first. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Let's talk." Although the savage dragon-headed turtle didn't think that this human little girl could say anything useful, it still roared angrily, meaning that it had something to say. "Lord Turtle, you're son of a turtle." A certain Joe couldn't hold it in anymore and burst out laughing. This was really a son of a turtle. There would be a son of a turtle in the future. And Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao were about to kneel down to this ancestor. What time was it? What were you laughing at? Go ahead and lie. A certain Joe held back her laughter with great difficulty. She continued, "Your turtle son might be the first one to see me after he hatches, so he probably thinks that I'm his mother. No, his father. Of course, it's impossible for me to have such a turtle's son, so this is all a misunderstanding. I'll explain it to him properly and he'll understand." The savage dragon-headed turtle didn't believe her at first, but when he saw Yunchujo say father instead of mother, he believed her a little. Their savage dragon-headed turtle clan had always been a male turtle that hatched eggs. Therefore, when the little turtle was born, the first thing it called was father. The savage dragon-headed turtle only had such a precious son, so it naturally treasured it very much. Otherwise, it wouldn't have listened to Yunchujia's words. Therefore, it growled in a low voice, indicating that it agreed with Yunchujia's suggestion and wanted her to quickly explain the misunderstanding. Seeing this, Yunchujo smiled and said to the little bastard, "The one next to you is your father. Go quickly, go to your biological father's place." No, Ugly refused. The little bastard still held Yunchujia's leg and refused to let go. That ugly thing was not its father. The savage dragon-headed turtle saw its son's disgusted look and began to feel sad. It growled in a low voice, making anyone who heard it feel sad and cry. Hei Shinjo rubbed her nose uncomfortably and kicked the little bastard. "You son of a bitch. A dog doesn't care about its family's poverty, and a son doesn't care about its mother's ugliness. You actually think that your father and son are ugly? You really deserve to be taught a lesson." The little bastard was kicked so hard that it looked up to the sky. The savage dragon-headed turtle immediately felt sorry for it. It roared angrily at Yunchujo twice. If it weren't for the fact that the little bastard had yet to accept it, it would have swallowed Yunchujo directly. A kind mother is a spoilt child, and a kind father is the same. Why did you keep such a thing if you didn't teach it a lesson? You unfilial brat, what use do you have for it? Yunchujo glanced at the savage dragon-headed turtle and said while pouting. In fact, this bastard was a little guilty. If she hadn't established a spiritual connection with it when the little bastard broke his shell, the little bastard wouldn't have clung to her and ignored the savage dragon-headed turtle. The savage dragon-headed turtle was stunned by Yun Chujio's words. How did the son of a turtle become the child of a bear? They were clearly not of the same breed, all right? After the little bastard turned over, its two small eyes looked between the savage dragon-headed turtle and Yun Chujio. In the end, it still firmly crawled towards Yun Chujio. The beautiful father looked more pleasing to the eye. When the savage dragon-headed turtle saw that its son once again firmly chose Yun Chujio, it was angry and sad. Therefore, it vented its anger on Yun Chujio and opened its big mouth to bite her. Before Yun Chujio could react, the little bastard blocked in front of Yun Chujio and screamed shrilly. There were water arrows shooting out from its mouth. Of course, his water arrows were nothing to the dragon-headed turtle of the wilderness. However, his son attacked him for the sake of outsiders. One could imagine how sad the dragon-headed turtle of the wilderness was. Yun Chujio touched her nose. Was it more appropriate to acknowledge a thief as her father? The bastard coughed and said, Master Turtle, calm down first. I think that when son of a turtle hatched, the first person it saw was me, so it couldn't help but feel a sense of familiarity. Send the three of us away. After a long time, son of a turtle will naturally know that you are its biological father. The savage dragon-headed turtle really wanted to eat Yun Chujio and the other two, but it was afraid that the little bastard would hate it, so it could only nod and agree. Thus, the savage dragon-headed turtle led the way, and Yun Chujio and the other two followed behind with the little bastard. Only then did Yun Chujio realize that this was an island. No wonder the ground was filled with sand instead of soil. This was also the reason why the savage dragon-headed turtle was at ease and left the eggs in the cave to find food. Because it was the absolute king of this island, the other demon beasts did not dare to go near its cave. How could it have thought that it would be plotted against by the grain reserve? After exiting the cave, there was a beach. In the distance, there was a vast sea. It looked calm and peaceful, but Yun Chujio knew that since there was such a perverted sea beast like the savage dragon-headed turtle here, then the sea was probably not very peaceful. This fellow tried the chopping board, but it could not fly at all. This meant that it was forbidden to fly here. It seemed that they could only take the sea route. It would be great if they could get the big bastard to give them a ride. Therefore, Hei Shinjo used her spiritual sense to say to the little bastard, Bastard, let your father give us a ride. I'll give you candy to eat. The little bastard was a little confused. Wasn't she its father? How did she become its sister again? Occasionally missing content. Please report errors in time. Although the little bastard didn't quite understand what Yun Chujio meant, it was certain that it couldn't leave the beautiful father. Thus it clung tightly to Yun Chujio's leg with its claws, as if it wouldn't let go. Yun Chujio laughed dryly, Master Turtle. Perhaps your son is a little reluctant to part with me. Why don't you give us a ride? I'll try to persuade it. The savage dragon-headed turtle really wanted to kill the little girl who had kidnapped its son, but it was afraid that the little bastard would hate it because of this, so it could only reluctantly nod its head. Yun Chujio said a bunch of words of gratitude, then called out a big ship from her storage ring. The three of them boarded the big ship. Originally, the little bastard was going to follow, but it was pressed onto the beach by the savage dragon-headed turtle's claw. Then the savage dragon-headed turtle suddenly opened its mouth. A huge mist pushed Yun Chujio and the others' big boat out. Damn! She didn't mean to send them off. This stupid big bastard. Yun Chujio wanted to cry, but no tears came out. The boat flew across the sea like a kite, and soon the island turned into a Xiaohei. However, this also indirectly showed that the big bastard's strength was simply unfathomable. It could blow the huge boat out so far with just one mouth. But no matter what, it had temporarily escaped disaster. Junior Sister Ninth, I've tried just now. The sound transmission talisman can't be sent out, and the other talismans can't be used. Moreover, we can't determine our current location, Shangguanhao said with a frown. And Lin Chuan lay on the deck. Who cares where it is? Let's take a rest first. Anyway, I've finally seen it. As long as Junior Sister Ninth is here, we can turn misfortune into good luck and turn misfortune into good luck. Yun Chujio. This person was really superstitious and confident in her. Shangguanhao glared at Lin Chuan and then asked Yun Chujio, Junior Sister Xiaojiu, what should we do next? You don't have to worry about food and drinks. I have plenty of them in my storage ring. Besides, we can also hunt. As for the direction of the voyage, the river usually flows from west to east. If we head west, we should be able to reach the coast, Yun Chujo said confidently. Although this fellow was not that confident, her emotions could be contagious. If she slouched, and Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao would also lose their confidence. As expected, and Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao calmed down when they saw Yun Chujia's confidence. However, Shangguan Hao still said worriedly, Junior Sister Jiu, what you said is easy. If we encounter a super high-level sea beast like the savage dragon-headed turtle again, I'm afraid we won't be able to escape death. Don't worry. The sea beasts all have their own territories. At least we'll be safe for a few days. We'll use these few days to study the countermeasures. There will always be a way. Are you hungry? Let's bathe in hot pot, Yun Chujo said with a smile. And Lin Chuan, who was still dead, immediately jumped up. Yes. Let's eat first. There's always a way. Besides, there's Junior Sister Jiu. What are you afraid of? Yun Chujo couldn't help but ask, Senior Brethren, may I ask why you are so confident in me? And Lin Chuan was amused. Junior Sister Little 9, it's because of your performance in Jingxin Cave. Also, you even fooled that big bastard. If you encounter other sea beasts, you can continue to fool him. Yun Chujo looked at Lin Chuan speechlessly. She really wanted to kick him into the sea. Continue to bluff? Bluff your head. If it weren't for the turtle sun in her hands, that wild dragon-headed turtle wouldn't have given her a chance to speak, okay? After the three of them finished eating, they sat together and chatted. Senior brothers, how do you think we ended up in this big bastard's nest? We were clearly in Jingxin Cave before. Yun Chujo said in confusion. Shangguan Hao said, I thought about it. There are only two scenarios. One is that there is a hidden teleportation array in Jingxin Cave, and it happened to be activated by the Earth Qi. The location of the teleportation should be random, so we were teleported to that island. The other possibility is caused by the Earth Qi. I have heard people say that there was such a situation before. When the Earth Dragon turned over, some people would appear tens of thousands of miles away. It's said that this is because the Earth Qi is connected, which is equivalent to a teleportation array. Although Yun Chujo had never heard of the second theory, she felt that it sounded quite reasonable. She asked Senior Brother Shangguan, where do you think we should be? Although I'm not sure, I think it's most likely in the Sea of the Ends of the Earth. It's because it's said that someone picked up a small piece of the shell of a savage dragon-headed turtle in the end of the world. It was so precious that it caused a sensation. And Lin Chuan pursed his lips. Senior Brother Shangguan, stop bullshitting. A turtle shell the size of a copper basin can cause a sensation? Is that thing that valuable? I'm not bullshitting. The shell of the savage dragon-headed turtle is a good material for refining defensive spirit tools. The size of a copper basin can be used to refine many defensive spirit tools. If it's a good blacksmith, it's possible to refine an immortal tool. Tell me, is it precious or not? Shangguan Hao glared at Lin Chuan and asked. Before Lin Chuan could say anything, Yun Chujo stomped her feet in regret. Senior Brother Shangguan, you should have said so earlier. If I knew that the shell of the savage dragon-headed turtle was so valuable, I would have tricked the bastard into giving us a piece. Shangguan Hao said speechlessly, Junior Sister Jiu, the shell of the savage dragon-headed turtle will only fall off when it dies or ascends to a higher-level continent. Even if you can trick it, it is impossible for the savage dragon-headed turtle to be given to you. Yun Chujia's focus was on the higher-level continent. She asked in surprise, Senior Brother Shangguan, is there a higher-level continent than our immortal Yuan continent? Shangguan Hao looked at her as if he was looking at an idiot. If there is no higher-level continent, why do you think everyone cultivates so hard? If we stay in the immortal Yuan continent, even if we cultivate to the top, we can only live for a few thousand years. Only by ascending to a higher-level continent can we obtain a longer lifespan. A certain Joe really wanted to ask him how many thousand years was that. She felt that it was already very long to live for a few thousand years, alright? 1,000-year-old tortoise with 80,000 years of age was almost as long as a tortoise, yet he was still not satisfied? However, that was also true. Previously, she heard from the remnant consciousness of Grand Ancestor Yuan Tian that he and Grand Ancestor Hong Yuan were more than 10,000 years old together, so each of them should be several thousand years old, and they should be the top existences in the immortal essence continent. There should be no one who could live longer than them. What's the name of the higher-level continent? A certain Zhou asked curiously. I don't know. Shang Guanhao's expression was as if it was natural. Yun Chujiu. Yun Chujiu was so angry that she was twitching. She had thought that Shang Guanhao was reliable, but she didn't expect that he was even more unreliable than in Linchuan. What do you mean you don't know? If you don't know, why are you still talking about it? Shang Guanhao might have figured out what Yun Chujiu meant, so he explained, Junior Sister Xiao Jiu, it's like this, because no one has ascended in our immortal Yuan continent for a long time. It must have been tens of thousands of years. Therefore, no one knows what the higher-level continents are like or what their names are. They must exist. Yun Chujiu nodded. Maybe there was no higher-level continent at all. These people were just trying to make a big cake for her. Look, there's a black dot in front. Is there an island? We can spend the night on the island. It's safer than the sea. And Lin Chuan pointed to the front and said excitedly. Yun Chujiu and Shang Guanhao looked in the direction of his finger. Indeed, there was a black dot in the distance. It grew bigger as they got closer. However, Yun Chujiu soon realized that something was wrong. Damn it! How could an island move? It was clearly a huge sea beast. Yun Chujiu rushed into the cockpit and sped up the ship. She deliberately changed the direction and hoped that the sea beast did not find the three of them. Unfortunately, although the sea beast was huge, its speed was extremely fast. Even if Yun Chujiu and the others changed the direction, they were still blocked. And Lin Chuan swallowed his saliva. Junior Sister Jiu, this is a level 45 sky-swallowing whale. Although it is not as powerful as that big bastard, the three of us are not its match. What should we do? At this moment, a huge wave shot out from the nostrils of the sky-swallowing whale. Yun Chujiu and the others were instantly thrown up several feet high, and then they were thrown upside down into the sea. And Lin Chuan and Shang Guanhao, one of them had a fire spirit root, and the other a gold spirit root. When they were in the water, they were just like landlubbers. Although they didn't drown with the help of their spiritual power, they were just flailing around randomly. Yun Chujiu quickly took out the water-repellent bead and handed it to them. After the two of them activated it, they felt a little more at ease. No matter what, at least they would not drown. And Lin Chuan said excitedly, Junior Sister Jiu, you actually have such a good treasure like the water-repellent bead? You really surprise me endlessly. Moreover, you gave it to us just like that? I'm really touched. Yun Chujiu rolled her eyes. This water-repellent bead is very expensive. When we are out of danger, you have to pay me spirit stones, do you hear me? And Lin Chuan, let's feed the dog the feeling. At this time, the sky-swallowing whale also dived into the water, opening its bloody mouth and pouncing toward the three of them. The three of them swam forward desperately, but how could they swim faster than the sky-swallowing whale? Soon the distance became very close. Yun Chujiu blinked her eyes, took out a jar of ink, and poured it into the water. Instantly, the sea water turned pitch black. And Lin Chuan and Shang Guanhao were completely impressed. Emma, Junior Sister Jiu, was really full of bad ideas. How could she come up with such a devious idea at such a critical moment? They had to be convinced. Just as the two of them were about to swim forward with all their might, Yun Chujiu signaled them to sink to the bottom of the sea. The two of them were stunned, but they soon understood what Yun Chujiu meant. The sky-devouring whale would definitely chase after them with all its might. Who would have thought that they would hide under its nose? Smart. The three of them quickly sank. This sea area was very deep, and the deeper they went, the dimmer the light became. It was so dark that they couldn't even see their own fingers. The three of them could only hold hands and sink down, in case they got separated. Finally, the three of them stepped on the seabed. The three of them held their breath and didn't dare to make a sound, for fear of being discovered by the sky-devouring whale. After a full hour, the three of them finally heaved a sigh of relief. After such a long time without any movement, the sky-devouring whale had probably swam far away. Only then did Yun Chujio take out the luminous pearl to illuminate the place. She was stunned by the beautiful scene before her. There were actually countless rainbow corals growing here. The corals of various colors formed coral reefs of different sizes. Some small fish and shrimp were shuttling back and forth. And Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao were also amazed. The Hunyuan sect was located in the inner land of the Immortal Essence continent, so they rarely had the chance to see the sea, not to mention such a beautiful underwater scene. Junior sister Xiaojiu, what should we do next? If we float up, we might encounter the sky-swallowing whale again, but if we stay down there, our speed will be very slow. When will we reach the coast? And Lin Chuan lowered his voice and said, let's swim for a few days first. It will be fine once we get out of the territory of the sky-swallowing whale. However, our journey will definitely be fraught with dangers. Everyone be careful. It was rare for Yun Chujio to put away her cheeky smile, she said seriously. And Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao nodded. Unknowingly, they had already regarded Yun Chujio as their leader. Although Yun Chujio was younger than them, and Yun Chujio's spiritual power was lower than theirs. But they still felt that it was not wrong to listen to her arrangements. The three of them swam forward. Although it was a little tiring, they were in a good mood after seeing the scenery they had never seen before. Especially when a certain Zhou happened to find some large pearls scattered on the bottom of the sea. She was so happy that she almost shouted twice. Junior sister little Zhou, we have made a fortune this time. These are pearls produced by the seven-colored mussel. The market price is not cheap. When we go out, we will definitely be able to sell them at a good price. Shangguan Hao could not hide his excitement. Yun Chujio nodded repeatedly. Haha, this is called no extreme bliss comes. We are going to make a fortune. However, this guy quickly understood the meaning of an idiom. Extreme joy begets sorrow. Just as the three of them were busy picking up the pearl, a huge suction force came over and the three of them were involuntarily sucked into a bloody mouth. It turned out that the sky-swallowing whale had quietly followed behind the three of them, and successfully struck them. The three of them were sucked into the stomach of the sky-devouring whale along with the seawater. Yun Chujio shouted at An Lin Chuan and An Lin Chuan, use the sword to stabilize your body. If you get into the stomach, you will die. The two of them quickly followed Yun Chujio's instructions and stabbed the sword into the fish meat beside them to stabilize their bodies. At this moment, Yun Chujio had also fixed her own body. This fellow kept gasping for breath. Just a little bit more and he would have died. He was still too careless. Now the problem was, how could they get out? The sky-swallowing whale ate from time to time. Sea water and sea beasts were constantly being swallowed. If they were not careful, they would be dragged down. They had to think of a way to get out as soon as possible. Junior sister Xiaojiu, let's use a sword to cut the belly of the fish. We will go out after that. And Lin Chuan said. Yun Chujio did not say anything. It would be great if she could use a talisman to blow up the damn sky-swallowing whale. However, if she used a sword to cut it, it would take at least 10 days to half a month to go out. Moreover, she had to be wary of being washed into the stomach from time to time. It was not a good idea. Let's stabilize our bodies first, and then we'll make a long-term plan, Shangguan Hao said to the two of them. Therefore, the three of them cut 3 holes in the fish meat, and the three of them temporarily settled down. Even though the three of them were tormenting themselves, the sky-swallowing whale was too big, so they were only slightly uncomfortable and didn't affect it much. Yun Chujio cut a piece of fish meat with the big kitchen knife and said, no matter what, we don't lack fish meat anymore. Moreover, it's fresh enough. And Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao were speechless. At this time this guy still wanted to eat. Junior sister little Joe, since there's no good way, let's start cutting. Anyway, it's just a waste of time. At most we'll be out in half a month. Shangguan Hao took out his sword and said as he cut, "Don't worry, I seem to have thought of an idea. I want this sky-swallowing whale to let us out voluntarily." Yun Chuzhou blinked her eyes and said, "What idea? Since it has done everything it can to eat us, how can it let us go?" Shangguan Hao felt that Yun Chuzhou was bragging again. Yun Chuzhou smiled and then used her spiritual power to shout loudly, "Hey, Big Fish, how about we talk?" And Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao looked at each other. How could the sky-devouring whale talk to her? "Big Fish, let me tell you. Don't think that you have the upper hand just because we are in your stomach. If you irritate us, we will cut you open. This is nothing. I have a lot of poison on me. Do you think it will be easy for me to poison you to death?" Yun Chuzhou continued to shout, and Lin Chuan was stunned. "Yes, we can use poison to kill it." Shangguan Hao glared at him and said in a low voice, "How much poison does such a big sky-swallowing whale need to be effective? Besides, what if it poisons us to death? To say the least, if it dies and we don't escape in time, we might be eaten by other sea beasts. By then, we will be out of the wolf's den and into the tiger's mouth." And Lin Chuan was even more confused. If that's the case, why did junior sister Little Nine threaten to poison it? Shangguan Hao looked at him as if he was looking at an idiot. Of course it's a lie. At this moment, Yun Chuzhou continued to shout, "You've already eaten all three of us. It can be considered that you've had enough of your mouth. Why do you have to fight with us until both sides suffer? Now open your mouth and we'll crawl out of your mouth and we'll all be happy. If you agree, you can call out." After a while, the sky-swallowing whale let out a roar, obviously agreeing with Yun Chuzhou's suggestion. And Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao were overjoyed. They didn't expect it to be so smooth. However, Yun Chuzhou whispered something to the two of them. The two of them were stunned and then nodded. Then Yun Chuzhou shouted, "Big Fish, we are going to crawl towards your mouth." Don't have the bad idea of flushing us down with water. We have our own ways to deal with you. The sky-swallowing whale roared, indicating that it would not do that. The sky-swallowing whale's huge eyes were filled with viciousness. The three little ants were actually negotiating with it. When they climbed into its mouth, it would bite them to pieces so that they would not turn into demons in its body. This was the reason why it agreed to Yun Chuzhou's opinion. Otherwise it was not stupid. Why would it be threatened by the three little ants? The sky-swallowing whale thought happily. It opened its mouth and waited for the three of them to come out and chew them into pieces. "Big Fish, we are only 30 feet away from your mouth. You have to be careful. Don't shut up," Yun Chuzhou said as she crawled. The sky-swallowing whale was proud. This human girl was really stupid. If they were to cut it down one by one, it really wouldn't have a good way to deal with them. At most, it would be rolling violently in the sea water. It tried to rush them into its stomach. But now they had voluntarily sent themselves to their deaths. They were really courting death. Just as the sky-devouring whale was thinking, it felt something rushing towards its mouth. It hurriedly clenched its teeth, and with a crack, it bit the big rock in its mouth. Before it could react to what was going on, it felt an extremely itchy sensation in its nose. Achoo! It sneezed several times. Then it saw 3 humans being sprayed out. The little girl even said with a smile, "Idiot, is the big rock delicious?" The sky-swallowing whale was so angry that it almost turned white. This little girl did it on purpose. She did not intend to escape from its mouth in the first place. She had planned to escape from its nostrils. Damn it! Damn it! The sky-swallowing whale chased after her in exasperation. It had never been played like this before. Today, it had to kill the 3 humans to appease its hatred. "Junior sister Xiaojiu, you are really smart. If we really came out from its mouth, we would definitely be dead." And Lin Chuan said in admiration, "I am not stupid. How could we really come out from its mouth? We had better think of a way to kill it. Otherwise, it would be really uncomfortable to be chased like this. Yun Chujia's eyes flashed with a trace of sternness. And Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao felt that Yun Chuzhou had gone crazy. Junior sister little Jiu, you don't have a fever, right? That's a level 45 sky-swallowing whale. Moreover, this is in the sea. How can we be its match? I still have a fire spirit root. I'm in the water. I'm just a good-for-nothing. And Lin Chuan said in annoyance. We can't fight it head-on. We can outsmart it. Senior brethren, since you're so useless, you can be the bait. Senior brother Shangguan and I will be responsible for blinding the sky-swallowing whale's eyes. Once it loses its eyes, the rest will be easy. Yun Chuzhou said. And Lin Chuan was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He already said that he was useless, but he still asked him to be the bait. Wasn't that asking him to die? Yun Chuzhou stuffed a bunch of bottles and jars into Lin Chuan's hands. It's full of dyes. When it's about to catch up to you, you'll scatter the dyes. You'll be responsible for running. You don't have to care about anything else. And Lin Chuan felt a little comforted. With these dyes, he would at least be able to buy some time, he asked worriedly. Can the two of you really do it? Why don't we just run? With these dyes, we can at least hold on for a while. Yun Chuzhou shook her head. It's not a cure for the symptoms. The dyes will run out one day. Besides, I've tasted the meat of the sky-swallowing whale just now. It's very delicious. If we bring back such a big sky-swallowing whale, it'll be enough for us to eat for a long time. And Lin Chuan, I'm afraid that the last sentence is what you really want to say, right? After the three of them finished dividing the work, when the sky-swallowing whale approached the three of them, and Lin Chuan threw out a jar of dye and shouted, "Help! That damn stupid fish is going to catch up with us. Run!" And Lin Chuan shouted and shouted to attract the attention of the sky-devouring whale. Shangguan Hao fired several wind blades at the whale. This was because the sky-devouring whale was too big of a target. Even with the dye blocking their vision, Shangguan Hao and Yun Chuzhou could easily find its position. The sky-devouring whale was trying its best to chase after Lin Chuan when it suddenly felt that its body was attacked by the wind blades. Although it did not cause any harm to it, the sky-devouring whale still shot several water arrows in Shangguan Hao's direction. After Shangguan Hao shot the wind blades, he followed Yun Chujia's instructions and sank a long time ago, so the water arrows didn't hurt him. Just as the sky-devouring whale was about to dive down to chase after Shangguan Hao, and Lin Chuan in front shouted, "Stupid fish, why aren't you chasing me anymore? Come and chase me." The sky-devouring whale roared angrily and simply left Shangguan Hao behind to chase after Lin Chuan. When it was about to catch up to Lin Chuan, and Lin Chuan would sprinkle the dye, and Shangguan Hao would launch a sneak attack. After repeating this a few times, the sky-swallowing whale was completely enraged. It decided to eat the human ant that sprinkled the dye first, and then deal with the person who launched a sneak attack on it. However, there seemed to be something wrong, and Lin Chuan, who was in front of it, began to provoke it again. The sky-swallowing whale did not have time to think carefully and chased after it, and Lin Chuan did the same thing again. He sprinkled another jar of dye and swam forward desperately. The sky-devouring whale opened its big mouth and was about to suck Lin Chuan into its mouth when it vaguely saw a group of piglets charging at it. The sky-devouring whale was so shocked that it even forgot to close its mouth. A spiritual beast that turned into piglets? There was such a useless spiritual beast among humans? While it was in a daze, several purple lightning bolts sneakily flew towards its eyes and nostrils. Roar! 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 The sky-swallowing whale let out a shrill cry. How could Yun Chuzhou let go of such a good opportunity? She kept shooting purple lightning bolts. Moreover, the piglets did not stay idle. They scrambled to pounce on the sky-swallowing whale's eyes and took a bite. The biggest weakness of the sky-swallowing whale was its eyes. Now that it had suffered a serious injury, it had basically lost half of its fighting strength. Yun Chuzhou and Shangguan Hao stepped up their attacks. And Lin Chuan had a fire spiritual root, so he couldn't do anything even if he was anxious. Yun Chujo shouted at him, "Senior Brotherin, use your sword to poke its anus." And Lin Chuan, "You can't bully me like this. If you don't want me to be bait, you'll have to poke the anus of the sky-swallowing whale." Junior sister Xiaojiu, do you know that you'll lose him like this? The three of them fought with the sky-swallowing whale for more than 6 hours. The whale tried to escape midway, but it was blind and couldn't get rid of Yun Chujo and the other two. In the end, it reluctantly took its last breath. Before it died, it finally remembered that something was wrong. It had forgotten about that treacherous little girl. It turned out that she had been waiting for it to lose its footing in anger so that she could launch a sneak attack. Yun Chujo put the body of the sky-swallowing whale into her storage ring and said, "The smell of blood here will attract other demonic beasts. Let's retreat quickly." The three of them floated to the surface of the water. Yun Chujo called out the big ship. After the three of them boarded the ship, they moved forward at full speed. Junior sister Jiu, wasn't that spiritual ship destroyed by the sky-swallowing whale just now? Where did you get another one? And Lin Chuan asked curiously. There's plenty of this damn thing. I'm so poor that I only have money left. A certain Jiu said smugly. And Lin Chuan said weakly, Junior sister and Lin Chuan, since you don't lack money, then can you exempt the money for the water-repellent bead? Yun Chujo glanced at An Lin Chuan. Senior Brotherin, I had already forgotten about this matter. You have reminded me, are you going to pay now or write an IO? And Lin Chuan really wanted to slap himself twice, so that he would have to shut his mouth. Of course, Yun Chujo would not really want their spiritual stones. She only instructed the two of them not to tell anyone about the water-repellent bead. Of course, the two of them made a vow and agreed. And Lin Chuan felt that it was good to follow junior sister Jiu. Not only could they have a good fortune, but they could also give her treasures. Such a good thing was hard to find even if one tried to look for it. This guy selectively forgot about being bait and poking his anus. Oh right, junior sister Jiu, your spirit beast is it Piglet? Isn't the high-level materialization technique only able to materialize one spiritual beast? Could it be that you have learned the spirit power phantom technique? And those are all auxiliary beasts? Shang Guanhao had wanted to ask for a long time, but he didn't find the opportunity at the moment. Yun Chujo touched her nose. Ahem, my spiritual beast is a little special. Before Yun Chujo could finish her words, and Lin Chuan pointed to the distance in horror and said, Another sea beast has come. Yun Chujo stretched her neck and looked. Sure enough, there was a black dot rapidly approaching from the distance, and its speed was much faster than that of the sky-devouring whale. The hearts of the three people sank. This sea beast was probably even higher in level than the sky-devouring whale. It was deadly. The three people hurriedly sped up the speed of the spirit ship. However, no matter how fast it was not as fast as the demon beast behind it. The closer they got, the bigger the black dot became. Yun Chujo was suddenly stunned. Wait, wasn't that the big bastard? On its back was the little bastard who was obsessed with looks. What was it doing here? Could it be that the big bastard interrogated the little bastard and knew that it was her who was behind this, so it came to deal with her? Father. Father. The little bastard's voice came from the spiritual sense. Right, when she left, she did not have the time to cut off the spiritual sense connection. From the sound of it, it didn't seem like she was here for revenge. Forget it, she couldn't outrun the big bastard anyway. Let's see what it came for. Therefore, Yun Chujo asked An Lin Chuan to stop the boat, and then stood on the deck to wait for the savage dragon-headed turtle. After the savage dragon-headed turtle swam closer, the little bastard couldn't wait to jump onto Yun Chujia's deck. However, it clearly forgot that it was a bastard and not a toad. With a splash it fell into the sea. The corner of Yun Chujia's mouth twitched. It was rare to see such a stupid bastard. It was likely that the big bastard would have to worry about it in the future. The little bastard floated up from the water and anxiously roared. The big bastard had no choice but to pick it up with its mouth and put it on the deck. The little bastard happily hugged Yunchuji's leg and did not let go. Yunchujo saw the little bastard's behavior and basically guessed what had happened. After they were sent thousands of miles away by the big bastard's spray, the little bastard would probably quit. The big bastard's heart ached for his son, so he chased after them. But what did the big bastard want to do? Take them back to be the little bastard's nanny? Don't even think about it. If she provoked him, she would take the little bastard as a hostage. She didn't believe that she wouldn't be able to defeat the big bastard. Master Turtle, why did you rush here in such a hurry? What's the matter? Yunchujo asked despite knowing the answer. The savage dragon-headed turtle roared a few times. Although Yunchujo did not understand it, she had a rough idea. Ah, you mean that the son of the turtle can't bear to leave me? So you brought it to chase me? The savage dragon-headed turtle nodded and then roared a few times. It was full of helplessness and bitterness. Thinking about it, it made sense. After hatching for 3 years, the turtle's son finally hatched. Who would have thought that he would despise it at birth? Moreover, he even acknowledged the thief as his father and threatened to go on hunger strike. How was this a son? It was clearly an enemy. Master Turtle, it's too tiring for us to communicate like this. Why don't we establish a spiritual connection? After the communication is over, we can cut off the spiritual connection. Yunchujo said with a smile. The savage dragon-headed turtle thought for a moment and nodded in agreement. This was because it felt that its spiritual power was much higher than Yunchuji's, so it was not afraid that Yunchujo would play any tricks. Thus, the man and the turtle established a spiritual connection. Little girl, don't think that this turtle doesn't know that you played tricks in my son's spiritual sense. This turtle is just worried about my son. Otherwise, I would have eaten you long ago. The savage dragon-headed turtle said angrily. It only reacted after Yunchujo left. He wanted to cut off the spiritual connection between the little bastard and Yunchujo, but the little bastard did not agree. Moreover, it refused to eat, so it clamored to find a beautiful father. This nearly angered the savage dragon-headed turtle to death. In the end, the dragon-headed turtle could not bear to part with its son, so it hurriedly chased after them. In fact, when Yunchujo and the others met the sky-devouring whale, the dragon-headed turtle had already been nearby. However, it did not go forward to help. It felt that if Yunchujo and the others were eaten by the sky-devouring whale, it would be fine. In any case, it was not the one who killed them, so the little bastard could not blame it. It did not expect that after a series of struggles, these 3 human ants would actually kill the sky-devouring whale. The savage dragon-headed turtle was very shocked. It was really curious. How did these 3 weak humans kill the sky-devouring whale? How did you kill the sky-devouring whale? The savage dragon-headed turtle could not help but ask. Yunchujo did not show it on the surface, but she cursed in her heart. It turned out that this big bastard had been watching the show from the side. It was probably trying to kill them with a borrowed knife. Since it asked, then she would scare it. Master Turtle, to tell you the truth, although the spiritual power of the 3 of us is a little weak, we didn't give it away for nothing. More importantly, we have brains. That sky-swallowing whale is so stupid that it's almost home. Naturally, it's not our match, Yunchujo said pretentiously. She didn't expect that her words would hit the nail on the head of the savage dragon-headed turtle. Although it had cultivated to level 47, it had always felt that the greatest difference between demonic beasts and humans was their intelligence. There were too many twists and turns in the human brain. Just like this little human girl, she was originally the reserve food that it had prepared for its son. Now, the turtle's son had acknowledged her as his father. It was simply unbelievable. It was no wonder that the turtle's son despised it. It did not look good, and its brain was not bright. It really could not compare to this little human girl. The more the savage dragon-headed tortoise thought about it, the more inferior it felt. Its head was about to shrink into its shell. Yunchujo was dumbfounded. What was wrong with this big bastard? After a long while, the savage dragon-headed tortoise finally gritted its teeth and said, Little girl, back then, I wanted to feed you to my son of the tortoise, and you also did a little trick in my son's spiritual sense. We are even now. Now I will hand the son over to you. Swear that you will treat it as your own son, or else you will die a horrible death. Yun Chujio was dumbfounded. Treat it as her own son? Even if she wanted to give birth, she couldn't give birth to a little bastard. What was this big bastard doing? I gave my son to you as a spiritual pet, and you are still hesitating. If you don't swear, I would rather make the son sad and eat all of you. The savage dragon-headed turtle roared angrily. Yun Chujio really wanted to shout at the savage dragon-headed turtle. Damn it! It sounded nice, but this little bastard was as weak as a chick. What was the point of having such a spiritual pet? A certain Joe blinked her eyes. Master Turtle, you misunderstood me. I was too overwhelmed by the favor, so I didn't react in time. Hearing Yun Chujio's words, the savage dragon-headed turtle felt a little better. That's right, it had given son of a turtle to her as a spiritual pet, so she should be overwhelmed by the favor. Master Turtle, I'm very grateful for your kindness, but I can't accept son turtle. Don't worry, let me finish first. You've also seen that my spiritual power is very low. If I encounter any danger, I'm afraid I won't be able to protect Sun Turtle. If something really happens to Sun Turtle, I'll let you down for trusting me. Yun Chujio said so sincerely that even she herself almost believed it. The savage dragon-headed turtle nodded. You have a good heart, little girl. Don't worry. Although son of a bitch is still very weak, I gave him his mother's turtle shell. At the critical moment, he can summon the turtle shell to protect you and his life. Hurry up and swear. Yun Chujio's heart skipped a beat. Son of a bitch's mother's turtle shell? This meant that either son of a bitch's mother was dead or had ascended. Which one was it? Master Gue, may I ask if your wife has ascended? Yun Chujio asked tentatively. The savage dragon-headed turtle looked impatient. Why are you asking so many questions? Why aren't you swearing? Right, you have to sign an equal contract. If my son didn't recognize you, how would you be fit to be the master of my son? Yun Chujio cursed in her heart. You bastard, keep showing off. As the saying goes, a father pays his debts, and the son pays his debts. Watch how I torture your turtle son in the future. Yun Chujio made a poison oath, and it was nothing more than a lightning strike from the sky. This bastard made a poison oath as if it was a common occurrence, and he said it very smoothly. The savage dragon-headed turtle saw that Yun Chujio's poison oath was very poisonous, and only then did it relax. Then it said to the little bastard son, you will follow the little girl from now on. If you encounter any danger, take out your mother's turtle shell. Do you hear me? The little bastard probably felt that he was really going to leave the savage dragon-headed turtle this time, so he more or less revealed a trace of reluctance and called out a few times in a low voice. The savage dragon-headed turtle's eyes reddened, and he gave a few more instructions to the little bastard. Then he urged Yun Chujio and the little bastard to establish an equal contract, so Yun Chujio had no choice but to establish an equal contract with the little bastard. When the savage dragon-headed turtle saw that the contract had been formed and that Yun Chujio had also made a poison vow, only then did it say, other than the sky-devouring whale that you killed just now, there are basically no sea beasts above level 40 in this sea area. You can feel at ease and head west. Even if you encounter a high-level sea beast, let the turtle son summon the turtle shell to ensure that your lives are not in danger. You can leave. Yun Chujio endured it, but she still could not help but say, Master Turtle, I really don't understand. Even if the turtle son is throwing a tantrum, you can still suppress it. Why do you want me to accept it? The savage dragon-headed turtle said unhappily. There's no need for so many double. Just treat my turtle son well. You will definitely benefit from it in the future. After the savage dragon-headed turtle finished speaking, it turned towards Yun Chujio and the rest of the ship and spat out a mouthful of water mist. The big ship was blown far away with a whoosh. Yun Chujio could only watch helplessly as the big bastard turned into a Xiaohei. The savage dragon-headed turtle looked at the big ship that was far away. Its eyes were filled with reluctance. It sighed, slowly changed its direction, and swam back to the island. Occasionally missing content. Please report errors in time. Daddy! Daddy! The little bastard hugged Yun Chujia's leg and kept calling out, his voice carrying a hint of sadness. Bah! Now you know how to miss your daddy? What did you do just now? You're a bastard who recognizes a thief as his father. Cough cough, you little bastard who judges people by their appearance. Yun Chujio kicked the little bastard away in disgust. Then, she rubbed her chin and pondered about the intentions of the savage dragon-headed turtle. Didn't make sense. Just because the little bastard was crying, he gave the little bastard to her. This bastard was so shameless. Could it be that he saw that she had a bright future ahead of her? This bastard decided that since he had already accepted it, he might as well forget about the reason. She said to the little bastard, "Little bastard, take out the turtle shell that your father gave you. Let me have a look." The little bastard blinked his eyes, and then a turtle shell the size of a wash basin fell onto the deck. Yun Chujio was dumbfounded. Little bastard, are you kidding me? So small. How are we supposed to hide in it when we're in danger? A trace of pride flashed in the little bastard's small eyes. No one knew what it was mumbling about, but the turtle shell grew bigger and bigger until the entire deck could no longer hold it. Yun Chujio quickly said, "Stop. Stop. I know it can grow bigger. You should put it away first. When it's in danger, you can release it." To be honest, this bastard felt that it was better not to use it if it could. Putting aside the fact that this thing did not attract attention, the main reason was that it was too uncool. When the time came, people would say that Yun Chujio had shrunk back into the bastard's shell. It sounded very demeaning, didn't it? Yun Chujio put the little bastard into the spirit beast bag, and then saw in Linchuan and Shangguan Hao looking at her in a daze. "Junior sister Xiaojiu, am I dreaming? That big bastard ran all the way here just to give its son to you as a spirit pet? Is it sick?" And Linchuan said with a dumbfounded look. Yun Chujio curled her lips. What's the use of that little bastard other than eating and drinking? If it wasn't for that bastard's shell, I wouldn't accept it no matter what. And Linchuan and Shangguan Hao looked at each other. Just keep pretending. No matter how weak the little bastard was, it was still a cub of a level 47 demon beast. It would definitely become a good helper in time. Yun Chujio saw the expressions of the two people and naturally guessed what they were thinking. She immediately felt stifled. Each of her spiritual pets had a bigger background than the other, but each of them was more useless than the other. They were all fucking babies. It was not easy for her to take in a fire-eating Xiao, but she had eaten the wrong medicine. In the next few days, just as the dragon-headed turtle of the wilderness had said, they did not encounter any high-level sea beasts. The sea beasts they occasionally encountered were mostly around level 40. Yun Chujio and Shangguan Hao worked together. It did not cause them any trouble. The three of them finally relaxed a little. If the situation continued like this, they would definitely be able to reach the shore safely. Unexpectedly, the calm sea surface suddenly became violent. The big ship that the three of them were on was like a small leaf swaying in the wind. It was thrown up and down, and after a few twists and turns it was overturned. Yun Chujio had no choice but to put the ship back into her storage ring. Then, she signaled in Linchuan and Shangguan how to dive to the bottom of the sea to temporarily hide from the wind and waves. As they dived deeper, the light became dimmer and dimmer. Yun Chujio took out the luminous pearl to illuminate the area. The three of them realized that there was not even a single seaweed at the bottom of the sea. It was so barren that it made them a little nervous. Not only was there no seagrass, there were not even any small fish or shrimp. It was as if they had entered a forbidden area of life. The three of them could not help but have a bad premonition. Yun Chujio was puzzled. If the situation here was strange, there was no reason for the big bastard not to warn them. Perhaps they were overthinking things. The three of them raised their vigilance and continued to swim forward carefully. Suddenly, Enlin cried out in surprise. Yun Chujio turned her head and saw a foot as thick as a bucket sticking out from under the sand at the bottom of the sea, pulling Enlin down. Enlin tried his best to cut the foot with the sword in his hand, but he only made a few shallow marks. Shangguanhao used the wind blade to help him, but it still didn't cause any substantial damage to the foot. What was worse was that another foot stuck out from the bottom of the sea and trapped Shangguanhao. Yun Chujio didn't have time to think about it. She took out a large kitchen knife and slashed at the foot. The large kitchen knife was indeed a must-have treasure when traveling at home. With one slash it cut off one of the feet. A black stinky liquid sprayed out from it, dyeing the surrounding seawater black. Yun Chujio quickly cut off the wrist that trapped Shangguanhao. The black liquid still sprayed out from the wrist. The three of them tried their best to float up. Although there was a storm above, it was still much better than the hidden danger below. Junior sister Xiaojiu, come over quickly and help me take a look. There seems to be something wrong with my foot, Enlin suddenly said. Yun Chujio quickly swam to Enlin side to check his feet. Unexpectedly, Enlin suddenly picked up the sword and stabbed at her. On the other side, Shangguanhao also shot a few wind blades at Yun Chujio. Fortunately, Yun Chujio had a defensive spiritual artifact on her, or else she would have been seriously injured. Fuck! Are you all crazy? Yun Chujio shouted angrily after retreating to a safe distance. Only then did she realize that the eyes of Enlin and Shangguanhao had turned blood red, looking very strange. The first thing that came to Yun Chujio's mind was the black liquid ejected from her limbs. Could it be that the black liquid had the ability to confuse people's hearts? Now it seemed that it was not just a question of confusion, it seemed to be controlling the two of them. It was really troublesome. Enlin and Shangguanhao both attacked Yun Chujio as if they had gone mad. If they really fought, Yun Chujio would naturally not be afraid of them. However, she could not hurt them, which would be troublesome. Fortunately, Enlin had a fire spirit root, so his combat ability in the water was basically negligible. This made Yun Chujio feel a little more relaxed. Before Yun Chujio could think of a solution, a whirlpool suddenly rose from the bottom of the sea, and the three of them were involuntarily sucked into the whirlpool. At this moment, the surface of the sea returned to its usual tranquility, as if nothing had happened. Yun Chujio had been trying her best to stay awake in the whirlpool, and she even bit her own lips until they bled. Now, Enlin and the others had lost their consciousness. If she could not stay awake, none of the three of them would survive. The whirlpool extended all the way down to the depths of the sea. Although Yun Chujio had a luminous pearl around her neck, she could not see anything except for the spiral-shaped whirlpool. Finally, the three of them stepped on the ground. Yun Chujio looked down and her heart skipped a beat. The pattern of the resurrection lily was carved on the green stone slab. Before Yun Chujio had time to think, Enlin and Shangguanhao attacked her again. Moreover, since they were not in the water now, their attack power had greatly increased. Yun Chujio found it even more difficult to deal with them. Yun Chujio gritted her teeth and threw a bag of chili noodles at the two of them. Yun Chujio took advantage of the time when the two of them were choking with tears and tears. She gave each of them a rolling pin and knocked them unconscious. The situation was critical. Yun Chujio forced Guai Chao to make a drop of liquid. After diluting it, she poured it into Enlin and Shangguanhao's mouths. It had to be said that Guai Chao was sometimes random, but sometimes it was quite reliable. After the liquid was poured in, when the two of them woke up, their eyes returned to normal. They looked at Yun Chujio blankly. Junior sister little Jiu. Where is this place? Yun Chujio let out a sigh of relief. With a serious expression she said, we were sucked in by the vortex. Just now you guys sucked in that black liquid and lost your consciousness. Later, if that kind of monster appears again, you must hold your breath, understand? Although the two of them didn't know that they had attacked Yun Chujo just now, they could guess a little bit. They looked ashamed and very uncomfortable. And Lin Chuan rubbed his eyes. Junior Sister Jo, why do I feel that my face is burning? Especially my eyes. It's so uncomfortable. Shang Guanhao also sneezed nonstop and said in confusion, it seems like chili noodles. Why do we have chili noodles on our faces? Yun Chujo touched her nose and began to change the topic. You can just rinse it with water. Let's quickly see what this place is. After saying that, Yun Chujo started to look around. This was a stone room, and the floor was covered with green stone slabs engraved with the patterns of the spider lilies. The surrounding walls were engraved with murals, and Yun Chujo walked closer to take a closer look. The main character in the painting was a man wearing a red mask. Although her face could not be seen, she could feel the domineering aura of looking down at the world. The main idea of the painting was nothing more than singing praises and praising virtues, and it was extremely exaggerated, as if everything in the world was created by the red-masked man. Yun Chujo curled her lips. Could this red-masked man be the lord of the Divine Devil Temple? Did he think that he was Pangu and Nua? Tui. Shameless. Yun Chujo noticed in the painting that strange-looking demon beasts often appeared around the red-masked man. Some of them were on land, some in the ocean, and some with wings. Among them was the monster she saw in the Tianluo mystic realm last time. Yun Chujo frowned. It seemed that the monster that she had killed last time was with the master of the Divine Devil Temple, so why was it in the Tianluo mystic realm? Moreover, it seemed that it had been in the Tianluo mystic realm for a long time. It was really strange. Yun Chujo found another monster with arms and legs in one of the pictures. It looked very similar to an octopus, except that it had a human face. It looked extremely strange. Yun Chujo thought to herself, could this stone chamber be the nest of this monster? Just as Yun Chujo was thinking, the door of the stone chamber opened. A human-faced octopus that looked exactly like the monster in the picture crawled in. Two of its arms and legs were broken. Yun Chujo thought to herself, looks like it was the one who attacked them at the bottom of the sea. The human-faced octopus hissed a few times. Then it said, Kiki, it's a little girl like you who has ruined the good work of our Divine Devil Temple time and time again? Those humans are really useless. They actually let a good-for-nothing like you jump around. However, it's really God's will. I met you when I went out hunting for the first time today. I can use you to make up for it. The first time? Yun Chujo thought to herself. No wonder the big bastard did not know about the existence of this monster. So today was its first time out. So the storm on the surface of the sea was also related to it? Her fate with the Divine Devil Temple was really not shallow. She could easily meet the Divine Devil Temple's minions. Yun Chujo curled her lips. Me? You are too shameless. You are just a stinky fish, yet you call yourself me? The human-faced octopus snorted. Little girl. When I was powerful, not to mention you, even your ancestors might not have existed. If it weren't for that, HMPH, do you think I would live in this low-level continent? Cut the crap and die. As the human-faced octopus spoke, a few of its limbs flew towards Yun Chujo. Yun Chujo raised her large kitchen knife and slashed at the human-faced octopus limbs. The human-faced octopus had suffered a loss from the large kitchen knife and quickly retracted its limbs. It said in a flustered and exasperated manner, "Is that the Heaven Punisher axe in your hand? What I have is none of your business. It's your bad luck to meet me today. I am the nemesis of your Divine Devil Hall. Sooner or later, I will kill that shit owner of yours." Yun Chujo waved the large kitchen knife in her hand. Suddenly, she felt extremely heroic. Humph! You stupid girl. Do you think that I will be afraid of you just because you have the Heaven Punisher axe? As the human-faced octopus said that, it suddenly opened its mouth and countless black liquid sprayed towards Yun Chujo and the other two. Yun Chujo was not worried about herself. She was afraid that in Linchuan and Shangguan Hao would be controlled again, so she shouted, "Put up the spiritual energy shield and hold your breath." In fact, even without Yun Chujia's explanation, and Linchuan and Shangguan Hao knew how powerful the poison was. They had already put up the spiritual power shield. However, they didn't expect that the poison was so powerful that it could even corrode the spiritual power shield with a sizzling sound. And Linchuan and Shangguan Hao had no choice but to keep releasing their spiritual power to ensure that the spiritual power shield could resist the corrosion of the poison. "You stinky fish are so disgusting. You spit at me whenever you want. Today, I will give you a roasted octopus," Yun Chuzhou said as she raised her right hand, and several bolts of lightning struck at the human-faced octopus. The human-faced octopus twitched its mouth. Although it was afraid of lightning, such weak lightning would not cause it any harm, so it did not dodge. How would it know that these bolts of lightning were just a diversion, and there were flames of the 10,000-year-old fire marrow hidden inside? Hiss, hiss, hiss. After the human-faced octopus was burned by the 10,000-year-old fire marrow, it let out a hiss and screamed shrilly, how did you get the 10,000-year-old fire marrow?" "Because I'm good-looking. Unlike you, am neither human nor fish. Didn't you want to eat me? Pooey. You shameless monster, I'll burn you to death." Yun Chuzhou waved her right hand repeatedly. The lightning and the flames kept attacking the human-faced octopus. The human-faced octopus kept hissing and burning. Just when Yun Chuzhou thought that victory was in sight, the human-faced octopus pressed down on a bulge on the wall, and the roof of the stone room opened to both sides. Seawater surged in. "Stupid girl. Let's see how you burn me this time," the human-faced octopus said proudly. Although the 10,000-year-old fire marrow was different from ordinary fire, it was still fire after all. Its effect in the water was greatly reduced, and its speed would also be much slower. Yun Chuzhou had no choice but to continue swinging the kitchen knife to chop the human-faced octopus limbs. However, her speed would be affected when she was in the water. Moreover, the human-faced octopus limbs were flying up and down, making it very difficult for her to cut them. She would not be able to gain any advantage at the moment. Of course, the corresponding human-faced octopus would not be able to do anything to Yun Chuzhou for the time being. As for Linchuan and Shangguan Hao, they knew that they would not be able to help her if they stepped forward, so they moved far away. They didn't want to become a burden if they were controlled by the human-faced octopus. Occasionally missing content. Please report errors in time. The human-faced octopus was a little anxious. It could not show itself for too long, so it had to end the battle quickly. It gritted its teeth and began to chant some obscure incantations. As the human-faced octopus chanted, the seawater turned into countless water arrows that shot towards Yun Chuzhou and the other two. Yun Chuzhou quickly used her spiritual energy shield to protect herself, but there were too many water arrows, so she could not hold on for too long. At this moment, the little bastard's soft voice sounded, "Father, the shell." Yun Chujia's eyes lit up, and she quickly released the little bastard. After the little bastard summoned the turtle shell, Yun Chuzhou and the other two hid inside, while the turtle shell fell to the ground, not moving at all. The human-faced octopus was clearly a little dumbfounded. It could be considered to be knowledgeable, but this was the first time it had encountered an enemy hiding in the turtle shell while fighting. The water arrow hit the turtle shell and made a clanging sound, but it could not cause any damage to the turtle shell. Just as the human-faced octopus was confused, a crack was opened in the turtle shell, and He Xinzhou shot several purple lightning bolts at the human-faced octopus. The human-faced octopus saw that there was no 10,000-year-old fire marrow in it, so it did not care at all. It just slightly tilted its body to avoid the lightning bolts. It did not know that the purple lightning had secretly made a turn. It turned around and went into the human-faced octopus' 7 orifices. The human-faced octopus screamed in pain. Yun Chuzhou took the opportunity to swim out of the turtle shell, and swung the kitchen knife at one of the human-faced octopus limbs. After repeating this a few times, the human-faced octopus limbs were cut into pieces by Yun Chujio, and the seawater was also dyed black. Why aren't you afraid of my venom? The octopus finally discovered such a huge loophole. Yun Chujio ignored it. While chopping with the large kitchen knife, she released the piglet of spiritual power to attack the face of the octopus. Stupid girl, don't go too far. If you stop now and I let you go, we will pretend that nothing happened. Otherwise, even if I don't live, you can forget about it. You will all be buried with me. The human-faced octopus roared angrily. Yun Chujio still ignored it and continued to intensify her attacks. Unless she was stupid, she would only listen to its threats. If she didn't get rid of the root of the problem, there would be trouble in the future. No matter what, she had to kill this stinky fish today. When the human-faced octopus saw that Yun Chujio was impervious, a crazy and bloodthirsty light flashed in its eyes. Its body began to expand rapidly. Yun Chujio was shocked. Was it going to self-destruct? Yun Chujio quickly jumped into the turtle shell, and then she heard a loud sound. Immediately after, the turtle shell began to roll rapidly. It was probably caused by the shockwave from the self-destruct of the human-faced octopus. Yun Chujio was glad that she had this bastard shell. Otherwise, she would have been skinned alive. This bastard decided to treat this little bastard better for the sake of this bastard shell. However, this bastard shell was really strong. The explosion of the human-faced octopus must have been very powerful. This bastard shell was actually able to withstand it. It was not simple. After an unknown amount of time, Yun Chujio felt that the shaking of the turtle shell was not as strong anymore. Only then did she let the little bastard open a crack in the turtle shell. She swam out to take a look and was stunned. There was a small island not far away from them. It was originally nothing, but when she looked around, there were countless small islands around them like scattered chess pieces. Where was this place? While Yun Chujio was in a daze, she saw a pontoon rising from the water between the small islands, connecting all the small islands together. Awesome! There was such an operation. Yun Chujio only had time to put the little bastard away, and then she heard a dull bell ringing. Then, many people jumped out from the small islands and ran along the pontoon to the small island next to Yun Chujio. Those people looked no different from ordinary cultivators. Just when Yun Chujio was about to get close to them, she heard an old voice say, "Greetings, Your Highness." Those people followed the old man's voice and knelt on the ground with both knees. They piously said, "Greetings, Your Highness." Yun Chujio looked around. It seemed that other than the three of them, the others were all kneeling. But where was the so-called fairy? Just as Yun Chujio was in a daze, an old man with white hair and a beard stood up from the crowd and walked in front of Yun Chujio. "Fairy, the people of Chessboard Island have been waiting for you for tens of thousands of years. Finally, you are here." As the old man spoke, he choked up. The rest of the people also wiped away their tears. Fuck. The fairy was her? She was the fairy? What a joke. Old man, are you mistaken? I'm not a fairy, I'm just a passerby. Yun Chujio quickly denied it. Although she loved to take advantage of others, it was better not to take advantage of others. The old man saw Yun Chujio's denial and immediately became anxious. There is an ancient prophecy on our Chessboard Island. One day, a young girl will emerge from the turtle shell, and that will be the fairy of our Chessboard Island. You are exactly the same as what the prophecy said. How can you deny it? Heavenly daughter, quickly follow me to the main island and accept the worship of all the islanders. I really am not your heavenly daughter. Well, I still have something to do. Goodbye. As Yun Chujio said that, she was about to leave, but she found that the sea area behind her had been blocked by several ships. Obviously, she had to go or not. Yun Chujio's short temper immediately flared up. Damn it, you asked her to go. If she was unlucky, it would be your own fault. This guy curled the corner of his mouth. Well, since it's hard to refuse your kind offer, I'll follow you to take a look. And Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao naturally listened to Yun Chuzhou, so they also followed Yun Chuzhou. The old man was half a step behind Yun Chuzhou to show his respect. He said with a smile, "Fairy, although our chessboard island is far from land, we have everything here. We will definitely offer you the best things." Yun Chuzhou raised her eyebrows. "The best things? What do you have? Tell me." "Delicious spirit fruits, delicious spirit fish, and all kinds of fresh spirit vegetables. If Fairy likes them, there are many beautiful unmarried men on our island. Fairy can choose them at will." "They will definitely be very willing to serve you," the old man said politely. Yun Chuzhou stumbled and almost fell on the ground. If the gigolo knew about this stupid chessboard island would probably disappear from the immortal Yuan continent. The old man obviously misunderstood Yun Chuzhou's meaning. A faint light flashed in his eyes, and he tried his best to introduce, "I wonder if you like the strong or the weak. Do you like the wild or the refined? Don't worry, as long as you like them. Even if they are already married, I will let them leave. I will let the candidates shower and change their clothes in a while, and let you choose carefully." Yun Chuzhou's head was shaking like a rattle drum. "Just prepare some delicious food for me. Forget about handsome men. I'm still young, so I won't consider it for the time being." The old man was stunned for a moment, then said with a smile, "There are plenty of delicious food on the island. I'll arrange for someone to prepare it right away." Yun Chuzhou smiled and did not say anything. From the corner of her eyes, she glanced at the pontoons under her feet. She had just noticed that these pontoons seemed to have risen from the bottom of the sea in an instant. She estimated that there should be a mechanism or a formation at the bottom of the sea. She was calculating the success rate of escaping by force. If it were not for Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao, she could have hidden in the Great Void Mystic Realm. However, she could not ignore these two people. She had to think long-term. After passing through a few pontoons, an island that was several times larger than the other small islands appeared in front of everyone. There were already many people kneeling on the island to welcome them. They had even laid a carpet on the pontoons. Yun Chuzhou's eyes flashed. It was quite plausible. However, there was no such thing as a free lunch in the sky. She did not believe in any bullshit prophecy. Even if there was a prophecy, she did not believe that these people would be so bored as to spend half a day looking for an ancestor. They must have other plans. This fellow thought about it. Fuck, since it was your people who came looking for her, why be polite? Hence, the old man said arrogantly, "Get up." The kneeling people stood up one after another. They lowered their heads and lowered their eyebrows, not daring to look at Yun Chuzhou directly. Yun Chuzhou snorted coldly in her heart. She probably didn't dare to look directly at the old man beside her, right? The old man accompanied Yun Chuzhou and turned around to the front of a palace. Although the palace wasn't big, it was exquisite and luxurious. It was obvious that it was carefully built. There were 3 ancient characters written on the plaque in front of the palace. Coincidentally, Yun Chuzhou recognized them. It was the fairy palace. It seemed that the so-called fairy palace was not made up by the old man. What was his purpose? After the group of people entered the fairy palace, the old man let Yun Chuzhou sit on the throne. Yun Chuzhou declined and sat on it half-heartedly. The old man sat on the throne and looked down from above. Then he saw the old man leading the group of people to kneel down and kowtow. It was nothing more than saying something about the return of the fairy. Yun Chuzhou curled her lips and waved her hand. No need for formalities. Get up. The group of people then stood up one after another. And Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao looked at them in confusion. Why did it seem like a dream? How did junior sister Jo become a heavenly lady in such a short time? The old man bowed and said, Your Highness, I did a divination just now. 3 days from now it will be a good day. At that time we will prepare for your coronation ceremony. Your friends will be arranged to stay in the post house. After the ceremony, we will arrange people to send them away from Chessboard Island. Yun Chujo slapped the desk next to her unhappily. How dare you? They are my men, so of course they will live with me. The one with a fair and clean face is my eldest husband, and the one with a dark face is my second husband. We have long worshipped heaven and earth, but we haven't consummated our marriage yet. The corner of Enlinchuan's and Shangguan Hao's eyes twitched violently. However, they knew that this was Yun Chujia's excuse, so they tried their best to bear with it so that they would not be exposed. The old man was stunned for a moment, and his eyes flickered for a moment. Then he said, In that case, let's arrange for the 2 husbands to live together with your highness. I'll get someone to take your highness and the 2 husbands to the rear hall to rest. Yun Chujio and the other 2 arrived at the rear hall accompanied by a few maids. The rear hall was also built very luxuriously and beautifully. Yun Chujio naturally lived in the main hall, and Enlinchuan and Shangguan Hao were arranged to live in the east and west side halls. Yun Chujio had always been a big-hearted person. Although the current situation was unclear, she still enjoyed a petal bath. Then she asked someone to call Enlinchuan and Chujio over to eat and drink together. The 2 of them were almost worried to death. How could they still have the mood to eat? Since you're here, you should just take it as it is. You won't be able to solve the problem even if you're worried. Try it. These dishes taste really good. Don't worry, I've tried it. It's not poisonous. Yun Chujio said in a low voice. The 2 of them really didn't eat anything other than the chili noodles that Yun Chujio had sprinkled on their faces. Thinking that they would at least be full to death, they decided to eat whatever they could. After the 3 of them had eaten and drunk their fill, Shangguan Hao said, I tried secretly, but the voice transmission talisman still doesn't work. I guess this place should still be at the end of the world. Yun Chujio smiled and said, If you want to know something, why don't you just ask someone? Thus, this guy shouted at the door, Come in, I have something to ask you. The 2 maids standing at the door opened the door and came in. They said respectfully, Your Highness, what are your orders? Let me ask you, what is the name of the sea outside the chessboard island? The Sea of the Setting Sun. One of the short maids said respectfully. Yun Chujio and the other 2 exchanged a glance. The Sea of the Setting Sun? They were clearly in the Sea of the Ends of the Earth. How did they end up in the Sea of the Setting Sun? Could it be that they were in the Sea of the Setting Sun? How many levels are the highest level sea beasts in the Sea of the Setting Sun? Are there any level 47 sea beasts? Yun Chujio probed without batting an eyelid. The maid was stunned, then she said, Your Highness, there are no sea beasts above level 40 near our chessboard island. However, it is said that the highest level sea beasts in the Sea of Sunset are only around level 45. I have never heard of any level 47 sea beasts. Yun Chujio nodded. This actually did not mean anything. It was possible that the king lived in seclusion and was rarely seen by others. Now, it didn't seem necessary to be torn between the Sea of the Horizon or the Sea of the Setting Sun. Therefore, she changed the topic and asked, The old man I spoke to before said that there has always been a prophecy of the fairy on your chessboard island. What's going on? The maid was stunned. You mean the high priestess? So that old man was the high priestess? Yun Chujio nodded. Yes, it's that old priest. Tell me about the prophecy of the fairy and related matters. After all, I'm about to ascend the throne, so I should know something. Just as the short maid was about to speak, another tall maid tugged at her. Your Highness, what do you want to know? The priest will tell you. If there's nothing else, we'll clean up the table. Yun Chujia's eyes flashed. She knew that she couldn't get anything out of them, so she waved her hand, indicating for them to go ahead. After the two handmaidens left, and Lin Chuan lowered his voice and said, "Junior sister Xiao Jiu, I think that old man doesn't have good intentions. If you are really a heavenly lady, why would they be wary of you?" Yun Chujiu looked at Lin Chuan with a teasing look. "Senior brother, and you are quite shrewd. I thought you were just a silly white sweet." Although Lin Chuan did not understand what silly white sweet meant, he could tell that Yun Chujiu was teasing him. He scratched his head and said, "I'm not a fool. I just don't like to use my brain. What should we do next? There are at least 5,000 to 6,000 people on this island. Moreover, some of them can't see through their spiritual power at all. They should be higher than us. I'm afraid we have no chance of winning if we fight them head-on." There's no rush. Anyway, the fox will reveal its tail sooner or later. We won't be able to eat or drink well these days, so we can just rest here for a few days. Yun Chujiu leaned back on the chair and said while blinking her eyes. And Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao still felt uneasy, but they could only listen to Yun Chujiu and return to their rooms to rest. The next day, Yun Chujiu found that the short maid had disappeared and changed to a triangular-eyed maid. It was San Jiaoyan. Yun Chujiu's heart skipped a beat. It seemed that it was because the short maid had spoken too much that day that the maid had changed. Yun Chujiu sneered in her heart. They were really stupid. If they hadn't changed the maid, it wouldn't have been a big deal, but now they were trying to cover it up. After breakfast, Yun Chujiu said to the two handmaidens, "I want to take a stroll on the various islands. You can ask the priest. However, you can tell him that if he doesn't agree, I don't think it's meaningful for me to be the heavenly lady. I'm going to leave." The two handmaidens answered unnaturally. After a moment, the two of them came in and said, "Your Highness, the priest said that you are too restrained. You are the goddess of the chessboard island. You can go anywhere you want. However, you are not familiar with the place. It is better for us servants to accompany you." Yun Chujiu raised her eyebrows. "Of course. Let's go. You can introduce the situation of each island to me." Yun Chujiu walked at the front, and Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao were half a step behind her, followed by the maids and guards. Wherever Yun Chujiu passed, the islanders knelt down and kowtowed. It seemed that they really took her, the goddess, seriously. Yun Chujiu secretly observed for a while, and found that most of the islanders were indeed very pious. Only a few of them were obviously pretending, and they did not look like ordinary islanders from their clothes. Yun Chujiu thought to herself, interesting. True or false, fake or real, what was going on? "Your Highness, this small island is specialized in weaving and dyeing cloth. The clothes of everyone on Chessboard Island are produced here." San Jiaoyan's maid introduced from the side. Yun Chujiu asked curiously, "People on land use spiritual cotton or silk to weave cloth. What do you use here?" The maid with triangular eyes said with a smile, "Your Highness, there are a few small islands on the Chessboard Island that have a kind of cotton tree with thin leaves. The fruits they bear have a lot of silk, which is similar to spiritual cotton. Although it's not as comfortable as spiritual cotton, it's fine to wear it on a daily basis. As for the silk, it's made of silk from a kind of silk cotton fish in the sea. Although its luster is a little worse than silk, it still looks good when dyed with color." Yun Chujiu nodded and sneered in her heart. According to what the old man said, their chessboard island had been isolated from the world for tens of thousands of years, so how could this triangular-eyed maid have seen the cotton and silk on land? And she could even talk about the difference with ease? It was simply a lie. Although Yun Chujiu sneered in her heart, she looked extremely curious. After they left this island, they came to another island. The maid with triangular eyes said, "Your Highness, this island is rich in spices. Although this island is not big, the spices planted here are enough for our chessboard island to use." Yun Chujiu deliberately walked to the field where the spices were planted. She picked up a handful of chilies and sniffed them. Although these chilies are red and beautiful, their spiciness is far worse than those grown on land. Occasionally missing content. Please report errors in time. After hearing Yun Chujia's words, San Jiaoyan maid smiled and said, Your Highness, I have not seen the land of Chile, so also cannot distinguish. However, we don't like spicy food on the chessboard island, so this kind of chili is quite suitable for our taste. Yun Chujia was surprised, really strange, before listening to the triangle-eyed maid. She should have seen cotton and silk. How come now San Jiaoyan? Did she realize that her words had been exposed, so she made up for it? Or was there another secret? Yun Chuzhou asked along the way. She realized that there were more than 50 islands in the size of Chessboard Island, and each island had a different division of labor. Some specialized in weaving clothes, some specialized in growing grains, some specialized in drying salt, and so on. Basically, they could meet all of the people's needs. Along the way, the triangular-eyed maid answered Yun Chujia's questions smoothly. Although her attitude was still respectful, there was a faint impatience in her eyes. San Jiaoyan, why are you here? Yun Chuzhou raised her eyebrows and suddenly asked, Why don't I see a spirit stone mine? Where did you get your spirit stones? The triangular-eyed maid paused and was about to speak. Yun Chuzhou continued, Don't tell me that you don't have a spirit stone mine. If you don't have spirit stones, how do your formations work? How do those floating bridges control the movements? San Jiaoyan's eyes sparkled as she stammered, This. Another tall maid quickly said, Your Highness, there's a fruit forest over there. Let's go and take a look. Yun Chuzhou knew that she wouldn't be able to get anything out of him. However, she didn't intend to get anything out of him. She was just testing him. Therefore, she said, A fruit forest? Sure, I'm very interested in spirit fruits. San Jiaoyan's maid's eyes flashed with a hint of viciousness, however. She quickly changed into a respectful expression. Your Highness, this way please. This spirit fruit forest mainly produces yellow honey fruits. They are the kind of spirit fruits that need to be skinned and eaten. Yun Chuzhou nodded. This kind of yellow honey fruit was unique to the chessboard island. The juice was plentiful and the taste was sweet. It was actually quite delicious. When everyone arrived at the fruit forest, some islanders were picking yellow honey fruits. After seeing Yun Chuzhou, they all knelt down and bowed. Yun Chuzhou was about to let everyone stand up when she saw a little boy of 8 or 9 years old suddenly stand up and run to her. He knelt down and cried, Your Highness, please save my father. I beg you. How dare you? How dare you disturb your Highness? What are you waiting for? Hurry up and take him away. The maid with San Jiaoyan shouted angrily. Immediately, a guard went to drag the little boy. A woman ran over to protect the little boy. Sir, please spare Liang. He is young and insensible. I beg you. Stop. Do you listen to me or a maid? Yun Chuzhou said unhappily. San Jiaoyan's maid quickly said, Your Highness, you misunderstood. I'm just afraid that this child will disturb you. Besides, this child is born with a bad brain, so don't take what he said seriously. So his brain is bad. Then I won't listen to him. You won't kill this child because he offended me, right? If that's the case, I really have no interest in the goddess of the chessboard island, Yun Chuzhou said with a faint smile. Occasionally missing content. Please report errors in time. The maid with triangular eyes froze and said, Your Highness, you have misunderstood. How could we make things difficult for a child like him? Hurry up and let him go. The maid with triangular eyes said. San Jiaoyan let him go. Only then did the guards let the mother and son go. The little boy wanted to say more, but the woman covered his mouth tightly. Yun Chuzhou smiled at the little boy's mother and said, "Sister-in-law, the child is sick. I won't believe his words and I won't blame him. How about this? You and your mother go and help me pick a dozen yellow honey fruits. Take it as an apology to me." The woman thanked her profusely and dragged the little boy to pick the yellow honey fruits. Yun Chuzhou walked to the fruit tree on the other side and asked all sorts of questions. Although the maid with the triangular eyes was impatient, she could only reply perfunctorily, "San Jiaoyan, I'm sorry." After a while, the little boy and his mother brought over a dozen yellow honey fruits. Yun Chuzhou put the fruits into her storage ring. Then she said to San Jiaoyan's maid, "Don't tell me that you are going to give them a hard time with my words. If I hear the news, I will be more than enough to deal with you." San Jiaoyan's maid had an unnatural look on her face. Then she said, "The words of Her Highness are the imperial edict. We will definitely follow it. We will not give them a hard time. This is for the best. Listen up. If anything happens to this mother and son, you can go and report it to me. If I, the goddess, am unable to make decisions for you islanders, I might as well return to the mainland and sell spiritual potatoes." Yun Chuzhou placed her hands on her hips. She spoke with a heroic spirit. The islanders quickly knelt down again, saying that the goddess was kind and kind. After Yun Chuzhou got everyone up, she said to the maid with San Jiaoyan eyes, "Let's go. We've seen enough. Let's go back to the main island." After Yun Chuzhou and the others left, the woman hugged the little boy and cried while hitting him. "Why are you so insensible? There's no news of your father. If something happens to you again, how will I live?" The little boy stubbornly did not speak, but a trace of slyness and expectation flashed in his eyes. After Yun Chuzhou returned to the main island, she took a bath and changed her clothes. Then she asked the triangular-eyed maid to prepare a meal for her. She also ordered a few dishes that she liked to eat. After that she went to San Jiaoyan. The triangular-eyed maid showed a trace of disdain in her eyes, but she still ordered someone to prepare it. Yun Chuzhou asked An Linchuan and Shangguan how to keep an eye on them. Then she took out the yellow honey fruits. As expected, she found a cloth strip in one of the yellow honey fruits. The words on it were clearly written in blood. The handwriting was very young, and perhaps because of the rush of time, only a few words were written on it. Undersea Spirit Stone Mine, help. Yun Chuzhou put the cloth strip into her storage ring, stroked her chin and pondered for a while. Although she couldn't make any sense of it, one thing was certain. There should be a spirit stone mine at the bottom of the sea, and many people had been captured to mine. No wonder there were a lot of old, young women and children on the island, and few young and strong men. And Linchuan couldn't hold it in any longer. He leaned over to Yun Chuzhou and whispered, "Junior sister little Jiu, how did you know that the child would put strips of cloth in the fruit?" Yun Chuzhou glanced at him. "I was just trying. I didn't expect that the little boy was quite smart. At least he was smarter than you, senior brethren." And Linchuan realized bitterly that little sister Jiu had begun to despise his intelligence since God knows when. Was she being kind? Shangguanhao smiled and said, "Little ninth junior sister, the day of the coronation is just one day away. What are your plans?" "I'm still useful before the coronation. I don't think that priest will do anything. But after the coronation I think it's time to kill the donkey. Tomorrow morning, let's go to the back garden of the fairy palace." Shangguanhao and Linchuan were dumbfounded. Weren't they trying to figure out a countermeasure? Why did he suddenly say that he wanted to go to the rear garden? What kind of logic was this? Before the two of them could ask in detail, the maid with the triangular eyes brought food to San Jiaoyan. Yun Chuzhou said with a smile, "Thank you for your hard work today. I won't go out tomorrow. I'll just admire the flowers in the rear garden. Sanjayoyen's maid couldn't wait for Yoon Chujyo to not go out, so she agreed immediately. After breakfast the next day, Yoon Chujyo brought the two husbands to the back garden of the fairy palace in high spirits. Although the garden was not big, the flowers inside were colorful and beautiful due to the meticulous care. It was a pleasant sight. Yoon Chujyo asked Sanjayoyen's maid the names of the flowers as she looked at them. Occasionally, she would tear off a flower and put it in a vase to enjoy. Soon, Sanjaoyen and the tall maid had a bunch of flowers in their hands. Suddenly, Yoon Chujyo lowered her voice and said excitedly, "There are a few spirit butterflies in front of us. Don't move. I'll go and catch one to play with." Sanjaoyen and the tall maid could help if they didn't have any flowers in their hands. Now they were happy to relax and watch Yoon Chujyo catch the spirit butterflies. "This one is not good looking, no? Why is there a gap in this wing? No. This one is too small, no. The color of this wing is too simple, no." Yoon Chujyo was never satisfied with the spirit butterfly that she caught, so she kept catching and releasing it. Perhaps she had lost her mind, and she even caught a few spirit bees by mistake. She was almost stung and cried out in fear. And Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao, as the husband of the king, naturally couldn't just stand by and watch, so they also helped catch them. However, after handing them to Yoon Chujyo, this guy was not satisfied, so he played with them a few times and released them. The triangle-eyed maid despised them in her heart. So this was just a little girl who liked to eat and play, and she was not a threat at all. However, she didn't want to play with these spirit butterflies, so she didn't want to play with them. She didn't want to play with them, but she wanted to play with them. She didn't want to play with them, so she didn't want to play with them. When it was almost noon, Yoon Chujyo still didn't catch a spirit butterfly that she was satisfied with. This guy pouted and looked unhappy. Forget it. These spirit butterflies look good from afar, but unfortunately they look ugly up close. I don't want them anymore. After jumping around for so long, let's go back and have lunch. I will ascend the throne tomorrow. I won't go out in the afternoon. I will recuperate in the house and perform well tomorrow. The triangle-eyed maid despised Yoon Chujyo in her heart, but she said respectfully on the surface, "That's good too. Later, I will report the process of ascending the throne to you. You can familiarize yourself with it first." Yoon Chujyo nodded and left the back garden under the escort of the crowd. Sanjaoyen's maid served Yoon Chujyo after lunch. When she saw that Yoon Chujyo was about to take a nap, she left the fairy palace and went to the temple of the priest behind the fairy palace. A few spirit butterflies and spirit bees followed Sanjaoyen's maid, neither too far nor too close. Occasionally they stopped on trees or flowers by the roadside. No one would suspect that these little things were spies sent by a certain Jiao. Oh. When the maid with triangular eyes arrived at the gate of the temple of the priest, the guard did not stop her. She walked straight in. Sanjaoyen was the first to enter. Not long after she entered, a few spirit butterflies and spirit bees flew into the courtyard of the temple of the priest. A guard at the gate said, "Usually, there are no spirit butterflies and spirit bees. Why did I see so many of them flying into the courtyard today?" The other guard curled his lips. That Hong Mei is Chief Li's lover. She must have been wearing some kind of perfume. That's why all these bees and butterflies are here. Speaking of which, recently that Hong Mei was sent to serve the heavenly daughter. Chief Li must have been hungry and thirsty for a long time. Haha. A certain Jiao on the other side heard the foul language of the two people through her spiritual sense. She was so disgusted that she almost vomited. However, her heart skipped a beat. She could roughly guess why the maid with triangular eyes had seen cotton and silk before, but not Sanjaoyen. It was probably because the so-called boss Li had given her cotton and silk clothes in order to curry favor with her. This meant that the Bosley was either an outsider or had left Chessboard Island. At this moment, the voice of a spirit bee was transmitted through her spiritual sense. "Greetings, Lord Priest." The maid with San Jiaoyan bowed respectfully. What did the heavenly daughter do today? Did she show any signs of escaping? The priest's voice was different from the pious one in front of Yun Chuzhou. It was filled with coldness. The heavenly daughter was admiring the flowers in the back garden this morning. She picked a lot of flowers and brought them back to the house. She wanted to catch some spirit butterflies on a whim. However, she was not satisfied after catching a few, so she gave up. The maid with San Jiaoyan said with slight disdain. She's just a little girl. Keep an eye on her. After the coronation ceremony is over, I'll directly host the sacrificial ceremony and kill her to worship the sea god. Yes. Lord Priest, what about the other 2 men? Didn't that smelly girl say that they were her 2 husbands? Then kill the sea god along with her. You should go back first in case anything goes wrong. Yes. Yun Chuzhou raised her eyebrows. Kill her to worship the sea god? This guy was afraid that the spirit bees and spirit butterflies would be suspicious if they stayed in the priest's temple for too long, so he ordered them to retreat. He also sent one of the spirit bees to continue to follow the triangular-eyed maid. San Jiaoyan didn't go back to the priest's temple directly. The triangular-eyed maid didn't go back to the fairy palace directly after she left the priest's temple. Instead, she made a few turns and arrived at the entrance of a courtyard. Soon, a man called out to San Jiaoyan and brought her into the house. The spirit bee was very smart. It crawled through the door and began to broadcast something indescribable to San Jiaoyan. A certain Zhou's heart was like 10,000 divine beasts whizzing past her as she listened to the vivid description of the spirit bee. Damn it, this spirit bee was actually a lecherous bee. Finally, the live broadcast of the sex was over, and she heard San Jiaoyan's maid say sweetly, "Enemy, have you missed me these past few days? Baby, I've missed you to death. If it wasn't for the high priestess orders, how could I bear for you to serve others?" Did the high priestess say how to deal with that heavenly girl? Although that little girl's spiritual power is a little low, she's quite pretty. Otherwise, those lowly people wouldn't really think that she's a heavenly girl. You damned ghost. Don't tell me you are thinking about that little girl. Let me tell you, if you dare to let me down, I will tell the priest that you embezzled the spirit or... San Jiaoyan's maid said in a sharp voice. Baby, what are you saying? I'm just saying, how can a little girl like her be as strong as you? Besides, why did I hide those spirit ores? Isn't it so that we can live comfortably when we're together in the future? You have such a good mouth. Other than some tattered clothes, you've never given me anything valuable. Moreover, our chessboard island is hundreds of thousands of miles away from land. It's as difficult as climbing the heavens to escape. If the high priestess finds out, she will definitely kill us. Besides, you can be considered as one person under 10,000 people. Why do you have to escape? San Jiaoyan's mate said worriedly. What do you know? Nowadays, the spiritual stone mines at the bottom of the sea are becoming more and more difficult to mine. Almost half of those young and strong men have died. I reckon that in the end the remaining old, young women and children will have to go down to mine. When they are all dead, we guards will also have to go down to mine the spiritual stone mines. When that time comes, how will we survive? Let me tell you the truth. In the end, only the high priestess can survive here. The rest of the people will die sooner or later. The maid with triangular eyes asked in disbelief, This can't be, right? Why would the high priestess do this? If we slow down the mining speed, won't the casualties of the islanders be reduced? I'm not too sure about the specifics. Anyway, I think the high priestess wants to end this quickly. She has been planning for so many years. Isn't it all for that spiritual stone mine? Alright, let's not talk about these troublesome things. Come, let's get closer. Yun Chuzhou frowned. The conversation between the two of them contained a lot of information. It seemed that this boss Lee and the high priestess were not from Chessboard Island. They had been planning for many years, all for the spiritual stone mine at the bottom of the sea. Then the problem came. Their spiritual power was obviously higher than the islanders. They could just take it by force. Why did they have to plan this for so many years before taking action? Yun Chujo shook her head. Forget it. Let's think of a way to escape the sacrifice tomorrow. A life sacrifice? So the reason why she was trapped was to use her to sacrifice the so-called sea god? What the hell? It was a pity that he couldn't use talismans here, or else he would be blasted to death. It seemed that he couldn't fight head-on, so he could only use his wits. This guy cupped his chin and thought for a while, then snapped his fingers. That was what he was going to do. This guy smiled sinisterly. Little fellow, not only did she want to escape to heaven, but the spiritual stone mine at the bottom of the sea would also be hers sooner or later. There was no other way. This was all the fault of that old priest. Tomorrow he would have a taste of what it meant to lead a wolf into the house. What it meant to steal a chicken and end up eating rice. What it meant to throw a stone at your own feet. What it meant to lose a wife and lose a soldier. The little black bird in the spiritual beast bag had no strength to complain. This black-hearted master was becoming more and more willing to talk big. Yun Chujo did not tell Linchuan and Shangguan how about the situation that she had overheard, because if she told them, it would not be good if they were to be exposed. The next morning, Yun Chujo woke up early in the morning and was served with a bath and a change of clothes. The clothes she was wearing were the so-called heavens-made attire, and there was a phoenix jade hairpin in her hair. A certain Zhou looked at herself in the mirror and felt very satisfied. Shangguan Haoan and Linchuan also changed into the so-called husband-in-law's clothes. The two of them were very handsome, which made the maids look at them shyly. Little, Your Highness, you look really good in this way. And Linchuan swallowed back the question that almost came out of his mouth. Of course, this is what I call being born beautiful and unable to give up. I was born with a beauty that could topple countries and cities, but after dressing up like this, even I was mesmerized to death. How could I be so good-looking? Sai, being beautiful is actually a burden, a certain Zhou said helplessly. And Linchuan and Shangguan Hao were speechless. As they understood more, they finally understood that the biggest advantage and biggest weakness of this fellow in front of them was that he was, well, shameless. A hint of jealousy flashed across the triangular-eyed maid's eyes. She thought sinisterly that this bitch would be sacrificed to the sea god very soon. No matter how beautiful she was, she would not be able to live. The coronation ceremony was not held in the palace of heavenly maidens. Instead, it was arranged to be held on the beach on the island where Yun Chujo and the others were found. And Linchuan and Shangguan Hao did not understand what was going on, but Yun Chujo knew. She planned to kill Yun Chujo and sacrifice her to the sea god after the coronation ceremony. In her dreams, a high platform had been built on the beach, and there were stairs leading to the top. There was a chair inlaid with seashells on the high platform. It was probably the throne of the so-called heavenly lady. Soon many islanders gathered on the beach, and there were also some young adults. The faces of those young adults were very pale, the kind of pale that couldn't see the sunlight all year round. Yun Chujo thought to herself that these should be the labor of the young men who were mining. It seemed that the priest was going to make a big fuss out of her. The priest had also changed into a set of clothes today. He was wearing a black robe and a mask that looked like an evil spirit. Yun Chujo secretly pursed her lips. She made it look like a real thing, but the mask matched him very well. Wasn't it an evil spirit? When it was time, the priest announced the start of the coronation ceremony. Yun Chujo was like a marionette. She followed the procedure that the priest had told her. Finally, after the priest read out a long and complicated sentence, she slowly ascended the throne. Everyone, including the priest, knelt on the ground. Greetings, Your Highness. Your Highness is blessed by the heavens and lives with the sea. Yun Chujo sneered in her heart. Wasn't it living with the sea? She was going to be killed and fed to the bastard soon. Daddy, I want to eat it. The little bastard retorted. It meant that it wouldn't eat Yun Chujo. Yun Chujo scolded it. Go to the side. Also, I'm not your daddy. Call me daddy again in the future, and I'll rip off your bastard shell. The little bastard felt wronged and didn't say anything. It really couldn't understand. When it had just broken out of its shell, it had felt a warm and beautiful father. But why did it become so fierce now? After Yun Chujo finished off the little bastard in her spiritual sense, she looked at the people kneeling on the ground. She said indifferently with a pretentious look, "Rise. Get up." Just as the priest was about to proceed with the next step, which was to offer the so-called sacrifice to the sea god, he saw Yun Chujo stand up. Then she said, "Everyone, you are all my subjects. In my dream last night, I received a clear indication from the heavens that many of you are digging spirit stone mines at the bottom of the sea. Am I right?" Boom! Everyone immediately exploded. Everyone whispered to each other, saying that the fairy was indeed a fairy. She even knew about the matter of the spirit stone mines at the bottom of the sea. The high priest had given a death order that no one was allowed to talk about the undersea spiritual stone mine. How did the fairy find out about it? It seemed like the heavens had made it clear. The priest was stunned, just as he was about to change the topic. He heard Yun Chujo continue. The heavens clearly said that many islanders lost their lives because of the exploitation of the spiritual stone mine. Therefore, the person who decided to exploit the spiritual stone mine was a sinner. Only by killing him can the sea god calm down his anger. Otherwise, the sea god will send its messenger to destroy the chessboard island. The people below immediately exploded again. It was the high priest who decided to mine the spirit stone mine. Could he be a sinner? It was because of the spirit stone mine that my 2 sons died. If we don't kill the high priest, will the sea god really be angry? The high priest was so angry that he almost vomited blood. This damn brat. He was the one who wanted to say all these things, okay? He originally wanted to say that he wanted to sacrifice the goddess to the sea god, so that fewer people would die in the spirit stone mine. He didn't expect that he would be robbed by this brat. It was really detestable. The priest's forehead under the mask was already covered in sweat. What should he do? If he let this damned brat continue to make noise, perhaps these islanders would really erupt. He had to end this quickly. Thus, the priest coughed a few times. He had a deep reputation on Chessboard Island, so the islanders immediately kept quiet and didn't dare to speak anymore. The priest instantly felt confident. These lowly people had already been tamed by him. That wretched girl wanted to use a few words to make them rise up and resist? In her dreams. Men. The reason why Her Highness the Fairy spoke nonsense was because the devil had entered her body. Immediately kill it and worship it to the sea god. This way our spirit mining would be smoother. As long as we finish mining the spiritual mine, we will be able to avoid the fate of our chessboard island sinking to the bottom of the sea. The priest did not care whether there was a loophole in his words. In any case, he firmly believed that the islanders would not dare to resist. Following the order of the priest, some guards surrounded the high platform and were ready to go up the steps to catch Yun Chujo. Shangguan Haoan and Lin Chuan had accompanied Yun Chujo to the high platform. The 2 of them looked at each other and stood at the entrance of the steps. The 2 of them were ready to fight. One of them would kill the other. They could not just accept their fate. Compared to them, a certain Jo was as calm as the wind. She laughed lightly. The devil has entered my body? Since I have already been possessed by the devil, why would the sea god like me? Since the priest is so popular with the gods, why don't we kill you and feed you to the bastard in the sea? The little bastard in the spirit beast pouch grumbled with disdain. I don't want to eat you. Ugly. Yun Chujio couldn't be bothered with this idiot who was obsessed with looks. She stared coldly at the priestess. The priestess was frightened by Yun Chujio's cold gaze and took a step back. However, she quickly calmed down. She was just a little girl at the 6th layer of the spiritual profound realm. It was just a bluff. Nonsense. What are you still standing there for? Go capture her for me. The priest felt a little uneasy. He felt that it was better to kill this little girl as soon as possible. If you dare to come up, I will let you die without a burial place. First husband, second husband, use our secret weapon. Yun Chujio shouted, and Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao's eyes twitched, but they still put on their gas masks and began to throw large sacks down the stage. The sacks were naturally filled with chili noodles. The guards were choked with tears and tears. How could they still have the time to climb up the stage? Although the priest was wearing a mask, he was also choking and coughing. However, the islanders were standing far away, so there was no harm. You're tuning into the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.